Hey everybody, Roll the Lines UK. We're just getting set up here. Going to hit live in about 60 seconds on the audio pod. I'm Matt, he's joined by Ryan once again, second time in 3 weeks. We are honoured, sir. I'll ask you how you are in just a second because we might as well hit the audio thing, but I haven't got there yet. Hope everyone in the chat's good. If you've got questions for the show, you know what to do. Thank you for being here. We're time limited, so I'm going to crack on with the show straight away. Just get your questions in. All right, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roll the Lines UK podcast, episode 316, the Caleb Williams Conundrum. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and returning guest Ryan Dangle. Ryan, second time in 3 weeks, you'll be a permanent resident soon enough.
I like talking football with you guys. What can I say? I'm very, very fortunate to do that. And I know, a lot of Bears fans are like, you like talking to Lions fans? Yes, yeah, I like talking to you guys. Not all Lions fans, but definitely you guys.
I popped onto your channel page, and the second video on the For You is just a big blow up of me, and I'm like, oh God, no, not again. I don't want to go back there. And how you doing, man?
We gotta cross promote, man. We gotta cross promote.
Absolutely.
It's so funny is if we could all just sit around and talk about, how much we hate the Packers or how much we hate the Vikings and just ignore the fact that we're in division rivals. Like we could have a really fun time talking about football all the time.
We could be such good friends if.
It's true. It's a true story.
I must say, it's like looking back like at a portal in times. I've watched a lot of your shows recently. And it's so reminiscent of our shows, like when Patricia's regime was coming to an end, when it's just like, I almost don't want to do this, and it's such a pain to talk. And it's just it makes me realize where we were, and it makes me appreciate this even more. But we've been there. It's been tough, isn't it? It's just.
And I feel seen. I don't know how to say it. Like it has been very difficult to make content for I wouldn't even say dumpster fire, because dumpster fires can at least provide warmth. The Bears are it's just a dark hole of awfulness right now.
The damp fire that you pour gasoline on to try and get it lit, and you get blown away when you light it.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Only reason I say it is because it happened to my dad once. Not a smart guy. Anyway. Blew all his facial hair off his face. Anyway, another story time later, perhaps. We do have a normal show that we will get to, but as we have Ryan on, we're just going to get right on with this. Not going to talk about stats or anything like that at this point. We'll leave that till later. Ryan, since we talked to you last, Eberflus is gone. We were hoping for it. You were hoping for it. Well, we were kind of not hoping for it, but you were hoping for it. It's happened.
You're welcome.
Can I say, although it's probably a blessing in disguise, it's not gone well.
No, it hasn't. I just a quick one. I'm just gonna take a victory lap. When I left your show, almost every single thing that I predicted in that episode came true. And I even remember when I said, the Bears might get a turnover. I think both of you kind of gave me a side eye, and I was like, just watch. And when it happened, it's like, hey, look. And so, yeah, I got what I wanted. Matt Eberflus is gone, but woof, Thomas Brown, almost every single team, when they fire their head coach, there's a bump that you see with the interim head coach, not Thomas Brown, which is a real bummer because so many players advocated for him, saying that they really wanted him, they believed in him. The way that he talked at the mic, you're like, okay, I could get behind this guy. And no, it has not happened at all. They've just looked flat, disinterested, and players are making business decisions instead of playing with their hearts. And so, yeah, no, it's been really bad.
So just to kind of go through who is now in control. So you mentioned Thomas Brown, interim head coach. He was the Panthers OC last year. Ash actually mentioned him last time as a really kind of thing in our show 3 weeks ago. So he was the OC with the Panthers that didn't go well last year. Was your pass game coordinator, got promoted to your OC after you fired Waldron, and now as your interim head coach. You actually had a bump in offensive production when he went to OC, but that seems to have fallen away. And then because you fired Eberflus, who called your defense, I believe it's now Eric Washington, who is your defensive coordinator, who's now calling the defense, but he hasn't done that before, I don't think.
It's bad. It's just bad across the board. I think the one thing that we were a little bit excited about was seeing Thomas Brown call plays. He was doing nothing outlandish, nothing crazy, nothing super inventive, but he was doing simple things correctly. And Matt Eberflus never did that. And especially Shane Waldron was just trying to reinvent the wheel. We talked about it last time, having a backup center play fullback and carry the ball. It made no sense whatsoever.
Forget that happened every time,
yes,
and then you come on and mention it. I'm like, oh my God, that happened.
And then, of course, on Monday Night Football, he fails to check in, and so he's cost the Bears 2 touchdowns. That shouldn't be a thing from a backup center perspective. But you know, the thing is, I think it was too much change too fast. And if he had stayed in the booth, in the box, right, in the, up top and continue to call plays, I think maybe we would see a more even Caleb. But it's a bunch of people doing something they've never ever done before. They're learning on the fly. They're not doing a great job of it. And it's bad across the board. It's terrible.
Looking back now and wishing for Flus to go, if you were guaranteed that he would be fired at the end of the season, and so you had no doubt about that at all, knowing what you know now and knowing kind of what's happened to Caleb since he's gone, would you have fired him at the time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think the thing that is most interesting is I and a lot of other Bears fans have done a complete 180 on Ryan Poles. Thinking very, very much, hearing Troy Aikman talk. Troy Aikman was terrible on Monday night. I don't know if you guys watched it, but he was terrible. But you know,
insert name of announcement here is terrible. Like basically everyone at this point. They're all Kevin Harlan, excellent. You call everything. Everyone else is shit.
I really, really like Greg Olson. I think Greg Olson might be
Greg Olson's fantastic. Yes,
best in the business. But anyway, you know, he basically talked about how Ryan Poles constructed this really fantastic team, and Matt Eberflus bungled it. And you kind of scratch your head now, and you go, "Wait, what?" I don't know what you're looking at. Some of the decisions that we were really excited about, including Montez Sweat, who last year gave a huge bump to this defense, both in pass defense and rush defense. It seems like he's dealing with a shin issue, but he's been basically just a ghost. It just has done nothing. You know, we look back at the Claypool trade, which we already knew was bad, but it looks even worse now. You know, the inability to bring in some offensive linemen that were really serviceable. It just defensive line on a defense that is so predicated on a 3 technique, and you don't bring in the 3 technique. But you do draft a punter in the 4th round, who, albeit Torrey Taylor has played well, but not enough for you to warrant a 4th round pick. And so I think it has put a magnifying glass on Ryan Poles to say, this is someone that we really liked and respected, but I don't know that was warranted. Last thing I'll say about him, Nate Davis, the team. This, as you should. We're all laughing as well. Apparently, he was warned by several members of the Tennessee Titans coaching staff, don't take this guy, don't take this guy. And how did he reward him with a giant contract? And he was cut. He quit on the team. Like stuff like this is just, it doesn't happen to a lot of organizations, but it definitely has happened to the Bears.
See, from the outside, like how I've looked at it, it looks like he's built his roster outwards in. Like with us, you see our cornerstone foundations we drafted. You know, we have a Penei Sewell here, we have a Amon-Ra St. Brown here, we have an Aiden Hutchinson here, and we've started it and then brought in the guys around it. But you look at the contracts he's given out. He's bought in Sweat, he's bought in Davis, he's bought in DJ Moore, a lot of high-priced guys. But where are, outside of Caleb, like the cornerstone foundations you've drafted, where's your Penei Sewell, where's your Amon-Ra? It seems like he's jumped the gun. That's how I feel it looks like. And that seemed to be that's what happens here. The overpaid guys under-deliver. The young guys are not there to set the tone like ours do. Is that a fair assessment?
Without question. And again, you know Chicago Bears football better than a lot of Bears fans. I think, we're really excited about Darnell Wright. I think he's been solid, not fantastic, but he's been solid.
Good right
Braxton
tackle.
Jones has been better than anybody else over there, but that's not saying a whole heck of a lot. I think we were interested to see what Kieran Amagaje has done, and I think he was put into a terrible position on Monday night. The Bears left tackle for Monday night. No practice reps with the starters, just basically thrust into that position. He was abysmal. And we had his high school offensive line coach on, and he said, this kid is going to be really good. He just needs a little bit of time. And he was injured for much of the beginning of the season. So, I think there's possibility there, but otherwise it's an insanely thin line, both sides. And again, I think you did a really good job. Keenan Allen, who has been the most productive Bears receiver for a little while now, has also 3 to 4 drops every game, and like meaningful drops too. That's not good recipe for quarterback success.
And sorry, Matt, speaking of him, like there's one thing, because I look at Caleb now, and even as an opposition fan, and that the second drive against the Vikings, I noticed he's coming on the field limping. He is clearly hurt at this moment in time. He's taken, nearly 60 sacks this year, countless other hits. And I know people say this is on him and that, but I like to see talent develop. I like to see as many good players around the league. And you get to the point where at this point in the season as well, you're thinking all these development reps are good for him, but the damage that's been done to him long term and his health, is that now starting to outweigh the reps he's getting? And would you, I know they won't, but would you start benching him now and saying, look, we're looking after you? That is what, for me, a good team should do. They should look after him, because it feels like he just looked absolutely destroyed. And I was disgraced with that. Everyone trying to blow him up for sitting down on the bench and stuff like that. I thought that was totally out of order because he'd just been speared. The kid's obviously hurting. He's under a lot of pressure. Do you feel now like they should think benching him just to protect him long term?
Just to add on to this very quickly, because I was going to mention this, there's a couple of throws he had in the Vikings game where he took a 2-step drop, threw it quickly, and he looks brilliant still. Like, he's got it in his locker, but it's 2 throws, 3 throws in the game. And actually, what I'm seeing from him is someone who's a bit desperate and a bit hurt, as Ant's saying. And he's putting the offensive line in a really bad spot in a way that Justin Fields was starting to do at the end of his Bears, well, in fact, throughout his Bears career. The offensive line looks worse because he's back there now. And so it's like, it's a negative spiral.
Again, great points, gents. I would say that Caleb is holding onto the ball too long because he is risk adverse. Everyone knows if Caleb starts throwing interceptions, the Bears go from very little chance to 0 chance of doing anything or having any semblance of a victory. Do you know what I'm saying? It's making him hold the ball too long when there are receivers that are going to be open, but the DB might move into that position. I can't throw it. It's hard for me to evaluate Caleb. And when you see people like Emmanuel Acho, who I called out on our podcast last night, saying, use bad body language. Dude just got a late hit. His ribs, they must be in shambles. And he's taking a breather for a second, which I totally get. He's on his second head coach, his third offensive coordinator. He has no consistency, has no veteran quarterback to put his arm around him and be like, dude, it's okay. This is going to be all right. This is a kid who again is in one of the most unbelievably dysfunctional organizations in sports right now. It would be hard to find another one more dysfunctional. Maybe the Chicago White Sox, for anyone that knows anything about baseball, they're terrible. But other than that, there's really not anybody worse. And Caleb is not great. He's missing open receivers. He's holding the ball too long. He's taking too many sacks. But who is going to succeed in this situation, especially as a rookie? And so I don't think any of the criticism, not any of the criticism, but a lot of the criticism is it's unbelievably unfair. What is this kid supposed to do?
Yeah, and that's even. I'm the first one who likes to take shots at rivals. Even I think it's bogus. Like, he's struggling. Do you reckon because he's on that really long streak at the moment, isn't he, of not throwing picks? Do you think that's playing into his throwing? Because, like I say, you see a lot of these throws
Yeah.
are a yard too far. And as you mentioned, is he trying more to keep it out the DB's way than really put it in his receiver's hands? Because you know what these streaks can do to guys, like subconsciously.
100%, man. 100%. Again, I think it is. He knows if he turns the ball over, the Bears are screwed. They got nothing. And at least at this point, you can say, hey, if he finishes the season 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, sub 10 interceptions. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask from a rookie quarterback in a dumpster fire of an organization. Like truly, what do you want this kid to do? And so, yeah, I think again, there's a lot of problems. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I also don't know that many people could handle this situation better than Caleb Williams is handling this situation.
I mean, the thing that was following on from that, from what I was trying to move on to a little bit, was you were talking about Kiran Amagaji, who was put into a terrible situation, and he looked bad. But actually, towards the end of the game, some of his run blocking was actually really good. The swift touchdown, which got called back for the ineligible, or the person who did not report, that was off the back. So it was 3 really good runs off left tackle. Yeah. And Amagaji looked fantastic. The thing is, when Caleb's dancing around back there and you're asking Amagaji to block for 3.5 seconds against the Vikings defensive ends, it's a recipe for disaster. And I'm worried that it's not just Williams that's being ruined a little bit. All of your young guys who are inexperienced are being made worse because Caleb is risk averse, yes, but also being a little bit of a hero. And I don't mean that in an ego way. I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that no one can benefit from this season. Like I don't see, like, aside from getting experience, and hoping that whoever comes in is at least slightly more functional than what we have right now. Roma Dunze, I think you put him on another team and he's probably an 800+ yard receiver. DJ Moore has completely disappeared in a lot of ways in this offense, which
he's a running back.
Last season, he was incredible. He was incredible. You're right, Matt. I think that's spot on. If he's not running the ball, like actually running the ball, he's catching these quick screens and then catching it in space and moving. And so yeah, no one's being utilized correctly. It's bad across the board. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, it doesn't help. I guess you talk about the nature. Everyone tells Bears draft their quarterbacks just as the head coach is about to get fired. No one's in sync with one another, are they? I think this seems to be the one big issue is that they're never in sync together. Like, Brad and Dan come here, they bring Goff with them. Those 3 are in sync together and you can do it. But while one's always out the equation, if Poles is on a hot seat now, you might get a new head coach. And it just seems like that seems to be the overriding issue right now. You need to get them, quarterback, head coach, and GM, on the same timeline and working together as one. It seems like until that happens, it will present a lot of problems for you.
Ant, are you sure you're not a Bears fan? Because that's basically everything.
I actually, you know what? I listen to your pod a lot. So I do, like, the guys I know, I do listen. I try to listen, and especially about the divisional rivals. But it's I'm interested in the game, so I do listen in a lot. But it seems to be that's the overriding issue. Because I guess now I don't know who you favor as you want to come in, but you would want a head coach who syncs with Caleb, not.
I'm hoping, yeah, and I'm so sorry. I'm hoping for someone.
You can't have him. You can't have him. No. I know what's coming next.
Yeah, so Ben Johnson would be, I think, would be a dream for a lot of reasons. Especially, I know, I'm so sorry, your assistant GM. I cannot think of his name for the life of me. Agnew. There's a lot of conversation about those being paired with Caleb. Rumors are rumors, but you're hearing it from a couple different places that Ben Johnson is very interested in Caleb Williams, that he has high praise for Caleb Williams. But also the Chicago Bears owners, the McCaskey family, they're very bad at running an organization. They're very, very bad at hiring people. If you look at the history of our team, especially over the last 20 years, they hire the wrong people, continually hire the wrong people. And there is an arrogance there that I don't know can be that we can somehow work around. Unless, of course, you say, hey, this, Ben Johnson, we want this guy so much that we're willing to give him whatever he wants and go from there. But can Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel or any Joe Brady, any of these guys get through the dysfunction that is this team, this organization? I don't know. I don't know.
I assume that's why, because Jack tweeted us the other day asking about what Sheila's involvement here with us, and I guess that's to do because obviously here we have a very clear power structure. She's very interested in the team, but she also knows she can't run a team. So the GM is allowed to run the team exactly how he wants, pairs him with the head coach, and she lets them do their jobs and gives them everything they need, which again gives the structure. But it seems that is also another position where, like you say, they're not allowed to do and create their image and as they want to create their identity without getting interfered with.
Oh, I think that's unfair, though. I mean, Ryan Poles has absolutely made this in his own image. Unfortunately, the image is shit. I mean, like, there's no other way of putting it, though. Ryan Poles has signed exactly who he wants to. He's invested heavily in this team. You can't say that the owners haven't empowered him to do exactly what he wants. So I get what you're saying, Ant, but I kind of don't buy it in terms of Poles. It's more just he hasn't worked out. And you're right, it's the timeline thing. But I would say about Caleb is that the Bears have never been in the position, even with the timelines being just disjointed, to, quote-unquote, ruin a quarterback of this caliber. I mean, Fields was not as highly regarded as a prospect, and Caleb nowhere close. Neither was pretty much anyone that I can remember that's been a Bears quarterback. So I do think this is a slightly different situation. You'll still get, when the new head coach in, all of the talk of, well, he didn't draft this guy. But he's a former number one pick. And we have a former number one pick who's gone to a different team, and it can really work. So I think Ant's right. The head coach has got to be someone who utterly believes in him and actually has a plan for what Caleb can do well, because it feels like you've been building the team outside of him.
See, if the GM has power, then would you can him for his assistant? Because everybody talks about his assistant. Is it Ian Cunningham, who's the assistant GM? Everyone talks about him as being a very high candidate for a potential role.
And that's such a phenomenal question. And the thing is, who drafted Velus Jones versus who drafted Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon? Do you know what I mean? Like, because everyone's going to want to take credit for the good ones and ignore the bad ones. And that's the hard part that you look at. He is incredibly well respected. That's why he's gotten interviews for GM positions. He hasn't landed anything yet. There are some Bears fans that say he would be really good, and he sees how things are going. It's just so hard to tell, and it's like a tooth rot. I think there are certain parts of me that just say you've got to tear it all out. And even if Ryan Poles has done some really good things, a la bringing in Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, and some of these other things that he's done really, really well, I just it stinks. It stinks from top to bottom.
I guess it's like you say, it's hard to tell. We didn't know about Brad Holmes. We knew everything about the Rams and about Les Snead and who he drafted and how much was Brad really a part of that. And actually, when you come to it, Brad has kind of been drafting the right sort of people without doing the crazy trade-ups to get the number one pick to get Goff, or the crazy trade-ups to get the high-priced running back who doesn't last this rookie deal and that sort of thing. So I totally buy that. I think those sort of things is, you're in the building, you talk to the guy, and you give it a try. At least it's the devil in some ways, if you respect what they've done in some part. And then if it doesn't work, well, oh well, we go again. But it's tough. It's tough.
Well, especially when I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and as soon as I finish this call, I'm packing up and going home and going to spend time with them. It makes you question, and prioritize things. And there's a lot of Bears fans that are not saying I'm going to start cheering for another team, but I'm not going to prioritize a team that simply just can't get out of its own way, and just the arrogance by which they think they're doing things versus how they're actually doing things is, as I know you guys understand this, right? Historically,
We had the
Lions-
whole
we had
Yeah.
the Detroit Rams. Do you remember the Detroit Rams from 2 years ago when Stafford went to the Super Bowl? That was a whole thing.
I do. Yeah, no, I do remember that. No, and I think it's hard to. There are some people that think, okay, well, Ryan Poles wanted to hold on to Matt Eberflus because so often teams they give up on a coach, and he's never really given that opportunity in which to grow and develop. And I think, I don't know if Dan Campbell was going to get the axe at some point in his first season. I know it was very, very few wins for you guys, and there are probably some people questioning, biting kneecaps. This guy, is he really? And clearly it's come to fruition for you guys in a really powerful way. But it's just they continually bring in the right people for interviews, and then they hire the wrong people because they just don't know what they're doing.
See, we had the same thing. Like, I know a lot of people didn't want Flus back this year because new quarterback, new head coach, pair them. We had the same thing with Patricia in his last year. A lot of people didn't want him back for that last disastrous half a year where he took the sinking ship and sunk it fully rather than stopping it just as it's about to go down. Seems to be now that, a lot of these choices where you should just do it. Because we suffered for keeping him another half year, just as you guys have as well. This is development for a lot of guys. Gone now. Caleb's rookie year gone. And, this is where you want him to really just...
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the things written about Matt Eberflus that have come to light and why they decided to keep him, I don't know. It's just, again, I don't know how else to say that the Chicago Bears are a terrible organization, without completely sounding like a broken record.
Let me just read to you the list of people the Lions interviewed for head coach after we fired Matt Patricia, because it's fucking hilarious. Sorry. Darryl Bevel, Marvin Lewis, Robert Sala, Eric Bieniemy, and I think Matt Campbell also got an interview. What a clusterfuck of interviews. None of them have done well since we interviewed them.
The
It's
enemy
unbelievable.
fall from great. Oh my, like that guy went from the hottest name ever in offense to he can't do it.
Oh, and two others, sorry. Arthur Smith. Well done. And then Todd Bowles, who's the only one who I think you can say has done fairly well.
That's a pretty good coach right there.
That's a very good coach right there. So we interviewed 2 out of 10 who have had any sort of success whatsoever. So I guess this job is hard, is the bottom line. Like,
Absolutely.
You're trying to find a needle in a haystack every time. So I have some sympathy with organizations who don't find it, because you get an organization who finds the right guy, you ride him for 15 years, which is why if you're Pittsburgh, don't get rid of that guy. I know you want something else, but like, come on.
Well, people that want Tomlin gone, like you're an idiot. You're an absolute, like, you have what? That guy has never had a losing season. Sure, he hasn't won you a plethora of Super Bowls, but he's taken you there. Like, it's time for a new voice. No, stop. We can tell you what that looks like. You don't want that.
I mean, Deontay
I've seen
Johnson
the
now. I'm sorry.
I've seen the campaign from your whole team to be like, yeah, 49ers, fire Shanahan, be done with him, we'll take him.
Yeah. Just, again, Aikman talking about how the Bears are going to trade for Shanahan. What are you talking? The 49ers are not letting Shanahan go. Stop it.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, they've already been through with him a 3 or 4 win season, and they ended up picking 4th overall, and it kickstarted everything again. Not by picking the right guy. Well, no, that wasn't the Bosa one, was it? Was it? Oh, it was for the Bosa. Yes, you're right. You're right. So, the idea that a good head coach is still going to make the most of a bad year like that. Talking of having a bad year and drafting high, Chicago have 4 wins. And, I mean, so playing us, I can't remember who you're playing final game. The Packers. Seahawks in the middle with no Geno Smith, potentially. So that actually could be a win. But at 4 wins, you might be thinking, we might be picking top 3, top 2 even. But you're picking 9th right now, and you might get 1 more win. I mean, you're not even going to see potentially the benefit of being a little bit rubbish.
I want to know who's picking the pick, and is that going to is it going to be someone that is good, that is worthwhile, or is it going to be someone that's hot garbage? I don't know. I will say this, boys. The wife is literally calling me right now. So I've got maybe one, maybe two more questions, and then I got to get rolling.
I mean, so what's the saving grace? What are you hanging on to for next year that is giving you hope?
I think there are a couple players on this team that are really good players. And I would say this is that I am sure Caleb is beyond frustrated, but he has handled himself at the podium better than I think any grizzled veteran could do. And while he may give this Teflon exterior, I am hopeful that he hasn't been permanently broken and only just minimally scarred. And to see where this goes, and that maybe somehow the Bears will bring in an offensive mind that will protect him and will give him some of the things that he needs, because at times he has been special this season throwing the football. And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
So I'll end this then. So let's just say theoretically you have power over the Chicago Bears organization. Starting the first day of the 2025 season, who is in place for you as your GM and head coach combo?
See, Ant, that's a phenomenal question, and I don't know if I have the right answer because I'm on a podcast and I don't run a football organization.
Who would you like if you could? Would you keep Poole for the head coach? Would you replace him? Who?
Ben Johnson makes me really excited because he's so inventive. He's so good. Joe Brady, seemingly, but is he going to bring Josh Allen with him? Probably not, but he's also done some pretty spectacular things. And Mike Vrabel, who is not necessarily my cup of tea, he's run an organization. He has had winning seasons, and he's a kind of take no shit kind of guy, which I think they need someone who's a little more gruff to kind of tell Bears management to just be quiet and let us do our thing. So I don't know.
I love the idea of Joe Brady because he's been humbled, like properly humbled in the way that he was discarded by the Panthers. He was scapegoated, wasn't he, for what was going on there a few years back. And I think there's real value with someone who's come back from something like that to become a success. I think he'd be a great shout as a first-time head coach. So, And also, if you're going to go Detroit, go Aaron Glenn. Not because I want to get rid of Aaron Glenn, but because he will be the better head coach. Just every Lions fan knows this. Aaron Glenn will be a better head coach than Ben Johnson. He just will be.
Think of this. We want a more competitive division. You imagine that? Brady, Dan Campbell, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell. I mean, like, what a four that is for an NFC North. Like that would feed.
Yeah,
that would feed families.
I was so wrong about KOC. Boys,
we all were.
Thank you. You know how much I appreciate you guys continually having me on this offseason. We will repay. We appreciate you guys. And while we'll be talking shit about each other on Sunday, not as much because Bears fans are kind of just broken at this point. So
our resident Bears fan who watches along says it's going to be Cliff Kingsbury. I'll leave you with that. Have a great afternoon, Ryan. Thanks for coming on. Cheers, Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man. If it is Cliff, I'm going to do victory laps. I'll just say that now. He is not head coach material.
I see. I don't know. Like, okay, if we're going to give Joe Brady a pass on what he's done in the past, then maybe we're going to give Cliff Kingsbury a break on what he's done in the past. Like, it's his first job. He's had time to go away. He's marshalling offenses again. You give him an opportunity to come back and give it a go. I don't necessarily think that Cardinals team was awful.
Oh, it
with
was.
Well, they were in playoff contention when we beat them. I know they kind of underachieved, but they always did get hit by the injury bug as well.
Like, I guess so, but
that year they played us, they were.
But in terms of like belief, Ryan talks about us and Dan Campbell's first year and whether there were people who didn't believe. I don't think any of us had any doubt whatsoever we were moving in the right direction. But watching Cliff, you might win 9 games a season in a 17-game season running that offense, but you aren't going to win a Super Bowl. And I feel very confident saying that.
It's about your support staff as well.
Sure.
Like your coordinators are a big part of that as well. And, did he get the coordinator hires right? Maybe not. First-time head coaches, they are susceptible to a lot of things. Like, a lot of them sometimes don't work because the support system in place around them is not there and they're not aware of it yet. So, Well, it would be. I would rather it be him than Joe Brady or Ben Johnson. But at the same point, I would love the Bears to do what the Bears do and pick another defensively minded head coach because that's what holds them back. They pick defensively minded guys and then they pick offensive coordinators who are rubbish. So the head coach can't you look at their offensive coordinators. The first two offensive coordinators fired this year were the Bears offensive coordinator and the Bears' last offensive coordinator last year. That kind of tells you where they've been going with it. And
I mean, you have a look at the Packers this year, and they've got an offensive-minded head coach. But for DC, they jettisoned the awful one from last year, went into the college ranks to get a head coach who wanted out. And how good has that defense been this year compared to what it was last year? For your identity to be defense, you don't have to have a defensive-minded head coach. You just have to find the right formula.
Yeah. I love that hire when they made that because BC's been a fountain of NFL talent over here. So the guys developed at the collegiate level. He's obviously going to develop here. The secondary guys, you look at Xavier McKinney, the season he's having, it's been good, but his DB play is awesome. So you've got to get the hires right around it. But the Bears usually screw up by getting a defensive-minded head coach who just pours all the resources and everything into his defense and then hires a half-wit to run his offense for him and then can't do it himself. You want the cycle to continue, but at the same point, for guys like Ryan, you do want it to get better. So the more competitive it is, the more fun it is. It's competitive, the league this year. The fact that the Packers are third with, 10 wins, that's fun. Or is it 11 now?
I think it's 11.
No, they're at 10. Yeah, the Packers are third in that division with 11 wins.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
That makes it fun. All these NFC North games are so...
No, it's 10. It's 10. You're right.
Yeah, all these NFC North games are so damn difficult at the minute. It makes it a better product. I think it genuinely makes us tougher. Even games against the Bears, I am very worried about this weekend. I know they've quit on the season, but they don't quit when they play us.
Yeah, they always play up to us for some reason.
And tactically, they always seem to get the better because that's the only reason they get into it. They out tactic us, and they level the playing field somehow. So out on the back of two rancid performances where they look like they've given up, I'm even more worried now that they're going to be like, yeah, this will be the one day of the season we're going to show up again.
Yeah. Our resident Bears fan in the chat, I just want to read some of what he said because I think it's interesting. So Bailey has said, the Bears keep saying they have a culture the entire league is jealous of, yet we haven't won a playoff game in so long. You get clowned every week by media and by losing. It will be Cliff Kingsbury. It's just what the Bears do. I think the Bears will be scared by Vrabel due to him not being agreeable. Ben Johnson will be too expensive and want his own GM. Cliff Kingsbury has experience and can fix Caleb in their eyes. And then ends with, I am not having fun, which is the tagline that I want for the Chicago Bears.
Been there, done that. That's why I can empathize and why I watch Bear Down Report and I'm like, that was us. 3 years ago, that was us. But I would agree, the grandiose statements are a thing. Like when the draft happened last year and everyone said Caleb's walking into the best situation a rookie QB's ever walked in his life, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
When Caleb's coming out and saying to the punter, you're not going to need to punt here very often, you're setting yourself up to fail.
The punter's at MVP. Literally, in the awards for the Bears, if Torrey Taylor doesn't get MVP, you're laughing.
Yeah, but whereas what the Lions have done, the Lions don't make grandiose statements. They just came in and said, we're going to work our ass off and we're going to bite some kneecaps, which, is fun. But we didn't say, we're the best this, we're the best that. We just got down to work. And for 2 years... we've
got to earn it, we've got to prove it, was the
message. For 2 years, we grinded with no appreciation, no one looking at us, no nothing. We just stayed under the radar. And then we had that massive boon at the end of the second year and then into the third year where we're like, right, we're ready to start making these proclamations now. And the thing is, when we proclaim something, we can back it up. 2 years, not losing 2 games in a row. We have the right to say, yes, our culture is we're going to win again. We get knocked down, we get back up. You can do that.
Yeah.
It feels like the Bears have just not gotten that floor where they've built up from, so they can earn the right to say these things. They just do it. Tyreek Stevenson, 4-2. Oh yeah, the world's great. I'm going to mouth off at the Washington fans. That arguably
is a turning point.
They win that. They're 5-2. Caleb gets another win under his belt. It's all up in the air, and then it's part of this grandiose. You shouldn't be like he was flexing when he got his pick the other day. Mate, you're down 20 and you're flexing because you've got a pick. It just, you know, maybe not. Maybe think, yeah, we're getting our ass kicked here. You've not earned the right to do that. And that seems to be the issue with them.
I'm thinking of Jamal Agnew scoring a punt return touchdown down 40 against the Patriots, and he was celebrating after that. We had the same reaction.
Yeah, we're just
was
like,
it 40-0 against the Patriots or something like that? It was an awful scoreline.
Was it the Jags killed us one? Not the Jags. Was it? No, it was someone else. Maybe the Cowboys? That was the year we were getting rinsed all the time.
Yeah, it was.
But we didn't, we certainly didn't earn the right then. And I could tell Patricia it was entitled. It was, oh, this is fine. It's just fundamentals. And it's just, bollocks. We put in now 3 years of damn hard work, and we can back up what we say. We've earned the right to say these things. They just need to get their heads down, build a core, build a culture, and, accept the fact that they are going to be the 4th best team in the division for maybe a year or two. But after that, you can very quickly go to... We did. We quickly went from 0 to hero when we got the culture installed, because when that's in, that's 3/4 of the battle, getting your culture installed. As long as you've got the talent to go with it and the buy-in from the players, then everything falls into place very, very quickly.
Yeah, it does. I'm trying to find out Jamal Agnew's kick and punt return. So we had a punt return touchdown in 2020 for the Lions.
That'll be it.
Feels like it should be.
It was. I want to say it was against the Jags, absolutely twanged us, but it feels like we haven't lost to the Jags in forever.
It does. It feels like ages. And we beat the Jags in 2020, so it can't be that.
Okay, no. It was a lone score right at the end of a game. Look for a game in which we scored 7, because that'll be it.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 16, lost 47-7.
Yeah, that's it.
But we gained 16.78 expected points on special teams.
Oh my God, I think back to that, the quarterbacks. Who was the Carolina quarterback who rinsed us? PJ Walker.
PJ Walker, yeah. 20-0 that game was.
Yeah, we lost 20-0 to PJ Walker, who was a UFL quarterback. or USFXL, what it was back then. XFL back then.
I mean, even since then, we lost to Bailey Zappi in very similar circumstances.
We lost to Bailey Zappi. That year was rough, man. And that's where I understand where the Bears fans are at now. It's just like there's no end in sight. And that was some rough times. Absolutely rough. And that's why I appreciate now. That's why at 12-2, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this, and the world is not falling in, because I know when the world is actually falling in. It's when you're losing to Bailey Zappi and PJ Walker. That's when your world's falling in.
Yeah.
Not 12-2.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Detroit for a little bit. Roster moves aplomb here. And 3 people have gone to IR, and one notably at the moment has not. Carlton Davis, Khalil Dorsey, cornerbacks both. Dorsey done for the year. Davis potentially out 6 weeks, could be back for a deep run in the playoffs, should the Lions get there. And then defensive lineman Alim McNeil with his ACL is done. But David Montgomery is getting a 3rd opinion on his knee. He seems convinced, Ant, that he's not quite done yet, which is to be applauded, I guess, in some form or fashion, but it feels a bit vain to me at this point with the coach already ruling him out. It's just a crap position, isn't it?
If there's any chance, even the most slim, that he gets back, so we've got to take this into consideration. We've got 5 more elevations from IR left.
Unlimited in the playoffs.
But, we've got a lot of IR to come back. And, if he's going to come back anytime soon, Rakestro's going to come back anytime soon, Anzalone and Raymond are going to come back at some point soon. That's 4 of them. You're in a position where, you want to keep your IR options open for some of these guys. And if he's not needed to go yet, then we don't need to. Just wait and see what he can do. Because if he can go after 3 weeks, then potentially, we want him for as long as we can get him. So right now, we're in no rush to replace the roster spots, right? We've not got a game till Sunday. We've got 2 spots already available. I think it's 2 spots already available. We're in
Yeah.
no rush. We got plenty of guys we can bring up. Having them on the hell, we're carrying guys at the minute. There's other guys we're already carrying at this moment in time. So just give him his chance, see what he can do. But this shows you these guys. A ring is the only thing when you get to the NFL. That is what you want. And this may be, I'm not saying it will be, this may be the best opportunity David Montgomery gets in the rest of his career to go get a ring. And if there's even a 2% chance that he can make an impact for us still this season and go get one, for him, he should take it. It should be the same with Hutch. If Hutch is ready, screw next year. This may be his best ever chance to go get a ring, and that's what matters. So if you're good, bring him back, send him out, go try get it.
Signings for the Lions. Linebacker Anthony Pittman has been signed to the active roster from the Jags practice squad. Welcome back to him. The Lions, haven't lost any linebackers. So it's an interesting decision to bring him back. Khalil Dorsey, of course, was the primary gunner on the team. So it looks like that's the main reason he's come in. And the cornerback Stanley Thomas Oliver has joined the practice squad. The defensive end Isaiah Thomas, who initially was claimed to the 53, then cut and signed to the practice squad. He's now been released from the practice squad. So that's a straight swap for Stanley Thomas Oliver. I must say I've known nothing about Stanley Thomas Oliver, if I'm honest. And the 21-day window has been open to return from injured reserve for the safety Ifasu Melifonwu. There is a reasonable possibility, because he was full practice today, that he will be a go for Sunday if the Lions decide they need him. Dan Campbell also revealed that defensive end John Kaminsky is unlikely to return this season. And a lot of stuff going on there too. I mean, maybe, and he tweeted about it, the most consequential is Iffy, who didn't have a great training camp. But we were trying to develop him as a player rather than working on what he was already good at.
We've seen players have trouble adapting to new positions here and adapting. So for him, like his biggest quality is his blitz ability. Like we're not getting sacks, we're not getting to the quarterback, and we don't have that many weapons to use with our D line to come up and manufacture some pressure on him. So having Iffy back immediately gives us, I mean, what was he at? About half a dozen sacks or something in his last season. He was healthy. He was a menace. And having him in the team, like he's not going to start. We've got our starting safeties in there, but bringing him up for looks, teams are going to see him and they're going to be like, they're bringing pressure. It's going to make people think twice, and it's going to open up opportunities for other guys. Having him there is massive for this team. It's just a chess piece for Aaron Glenn to fiddle around with. And hell, we drafted Iffy as a corner. So if we're having issues at corner and we need someone, if we need another outside corner and we need someone to step up there, Iffy can play there. He's done it before. It's what he did in college, so we can put him there again. It's big for us, but his ability at the line of scrimmage could be that little 1% difference that just makes our defense from, below average to average, because we can sack the quarterback and we can get some tackles for loss, and we can get a few more drives off the field and not convert it into points. So like having him back's massive, and I put him in straight away. He's in a contract year. He's got a lot to prove. He's now got a great opportunity. 3 games till the end of the year. You've got to figure Dan's going to start resting guys. He's doing it in training now. You've got to figure that some of these top guys' snap counts will just decline a little bit, especially if we're winning games and we're just trying to manage the team to the playoffs. So he's going to get as many snaps as he can handle. And if he shows that he's the same guy he was before the injury, he will probably get a contract to stay here next year, which is in his best interest and ours. So I'm looking forward to having him back. With Kamish, it never felt like he was going to. I never bought that he was going to be back this year. It was just a bit too much. And of course, he's been out for so long now. I don't know how much he's going to contribute, like coming towards the end, especially coming off that particular type of injury for him and what he does. It's a shame. I don't know what you do with him next year now. Is he under contract for 1 more year, or is he done?
He's done.
He's done. Like, you've got to figure he'll be. They love him. You've got to figure he's going to be back for training camp. They're going to give him some sort of vet min deal and maybe an opportunity to earn more. I figure we've not seen the last of him yet. You always need depth at your edge positions as well, but it's a shame. But not surprising. So we know that's not happening now. So we do have work to do at edge because as it stands, we're not going to get anyone back. So we've got to find ways to pressure the QB more.
Yeah, totally agree. Right, for the Bears, the only thing I have to say is since they fired their head coach after our game, they've gone 0-2. They've been outscored 68-25 against San Francisco and Minnesota. A hurting San Francisco team, by the way, almost out of it all. They're clinging by the skin of their teeth onto their playoff hopes. Chicago then have fallen to 4-10. Their expected win total is 5.8. The last time we spoke 3 weeks ago, it was 5.4. So they earned 0.4 wins in the last 2 games, which is not great. Their entire season started with a win versus Tennessee, losses at Houston, at Indy, wins versus the Rams, Carolina, and Jacksonville to get to 4-2, but then losses at Washington, at Arizona, versus New England, versus Green Bay, versus Minnesota in overtime, at Detroit, at San Francisco, and at Minnesota have ended their season. Worth mentioning, they've had a 3-game away stretch. They're coming back to home for the first time in a month. For this game, the Bears are actually smaller underdogs than they were for the Lions game in Detroit. Not a surprise, I guess, because of where it's being held. But, you know, the fact that the Lions have continued to win games, the Bears have continued to lose games, you might have expected it to widen. It has not. The Bears are plus 340. Lions minus 300. That means the Lions are 6.5 point favourites. The over-under is 48. Injury reports for Wednesday are out. For the Lions, did not practice today. Obviously, Montgomery, who's on the main roster and is not on IR, is listed as did not practice. The other two, Graham Glasgow has showed up with a knee injury, which is not promising. Considering how he played last week, maybe explanatory. The other one, which would be very worrying indeed, is that Brian Branch has turned up with a calf injury. He did not practice today, and that could be very bad for the Lions considering DB room and its state at the moment. I listed Brian Branch as maybe the emergency 5th cornerback as well. Iffy too, but Branch can absolutely be that guy.
Dan said they were taking rest days. I know they might have injuries, but he said deliberately they were resting D-line and Branch.
So, he said deliberately Branch, did he?
Yeah,
so,
he said several guys on the D-line and Branch will be dialing back today. So he might have a knock, but I think he's been deliberately held out.
So the only reason why I said him is that the rest days have been specified as rest, whereas he is given as a calf. So also did not practice for the Lions today for rest days. Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, DJ Reader, Zadarius Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kevin Zeitler, all designated rest. So, but Brian Branch says calf. That's the only reason. But obviously, if Dan said it, then it's going to be true. He doesn't lie at the podium, potentially. So, for the Bears, theirs is not as long, but is a bit more worrying, potentially. Did not practice today. Braxton Jones, starting tackle, and backup tackle Ryan Bates, both with a concussion, did not practice. Tevin Jenkins, the guard, with a calf, did not practice. And Gervin Dexter, the defensive tackle, who's been so good this season, with a knee injury, did not practice. He did not play last week. Tevin Jenkins did. Braxton Jones was also out. That's why Kiran Amagaji played. We talked about that already with Ryan. Other players not to worry about. Pretty small injury list for the Bears. Otherwise, on IR, that hasn't changed. It's still Andrew Billings, defensive tackle, and safety Jaquan Brisk as their leading guys. Overall stats-wise, they were 17th overall by PFF in the last time we spoke 3 weeks ago. Now they're 22nd, so they've fallen considerably. The offense has actually improved, apparently. Was 26th, now 24th. Not sure that passes the eye test, personally, but maybe it's other worse teams getting even worse. For the defense, they were 6th. They're now 12th. That's really where they've regressed, is on the defense.
Did you see the tweet I put up from Courtney saying how they've regressed since week 7?
They're 32nd in basically every metric.
Yeah, so since week 7, that's where it is. I just checked here. So yeah, Dan Campbell says they're going to hold out a number of players today for precautionary measures. That includes several linemen and Brian Branch.
Fair. Brent says estimated cost at bringing back Davis. What do you mean by cost, Brent? Because I don't know.
Contract.
Oh!
For
Jesus
Davis.
Christ.
Come on, Matt.
He's the
Even inadequate host would know that.
Sorry. For the last 3 weeks, he's the number 1 PFF cornerback. Apparently, he's some like 86 grade. That does pass the eye test for me. I think he's been absolutely brilliant recently. Not just because PFF says so. It's a hard sell for me to bring him back.
When you've invested in Rakestraw and Arnold,
Yeah.
You don't want to be paying top dollar for a cornerback.
If he'd be willing to come back on a 1-year deal, I'd pay him another top dollar contract. I'd pay him 16 to 18 million for a year.
See, I think this question and answer changes depending on whether you win a Super Bowl or not. I think if you win a Super Bowl, then you can say, there's your ring. Go get a big contract somewhere.
It's going to be up to him, isn't it?
Oh, it obviously is, but I think it's easier to say, we're not going to do this if you've just won a ring.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because then we can say, it's hard to go back to back, even though the Chiefs just said that. We get the young players in, and obviously we've got to manage costs of bigger contracts coming up with our own as well. So, we've bought in a Meek, who we gave up draft capital for as well. You've got him, you've got Rakestraw, you've got,
we didn't give up draft capital for a Meek.
Did we not?
No, free agent signing.
But still, we've got a lot of guys here who can do it.
Yes, we do. I do think Rakestraw being behind where I wanted him to be does strengthen the argument to have Davis for 1 more year.
Will he want a 1 year, though? That's the trouble. I think it would be hard to sell him on a 1-year contract. And to be honest, I think it would be disingenuous to give him a 1-year deal. Like,
he's been better than that.
That's not what we do. We give players what they deserve, and if we can't give it them, like Jonah, we will let them go out and get it.
Yep, that's fair.
So maybe he's pricing himself out. Who knows? I think for me it would have to be a short deal. Like if it's 2 years, can probably live with that. But if it's any more than 2 years, I think that you're going to struggle with that and the cost it's going to cost you at that point.
I mean, I think no matter whether we win a ring or not, I think he's still going to want rings. And if he believes in this team next year, I think that will increase his want to come back. So I think it's eminently possible he comes back on a reasonable deal.
I mean, I say this, he's got a ring already, right?
Yeah, with Tampa, yeah.
So maybe rings won't. I don't know.
I mean, why not be one of those people who gets multiple rings in multiple locations and multiple rings in the same place as well? Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
He absolutely wants to go to the Hall of Fame. And why not? There's only very few people that have won multiple rings in different places.
So I guess going back to the original question is, what would it cost? 16
to 18 for me.
Yeah.
So he's been paid 15 now.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's the deal Tampa gave him that we took on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So.
I am about to find out the cornerback contract's average value now. So if he was paid 18 million per, he would be the 12th highest paid corner, just behind Jalen Johnson, who only got paid last year.
That feels reasonable, but then it also feels unrealistic that we get him for that much.
I don't know. So the corners that are being paid more than that, Jalen Ramsey's still the number 1 in the league with 24.1 million a year, which is ridiculous. Patrick Surtain, Jair Alexander, AJ Terrell, Denzel Ward, Marlon Humphrey, Trayvon Diggs, Marshawn Lattimore, Tyson Campbell, L'Jarius Sneed, and Jalen Johnson are the top 11. I think you can get Carlton Davis for under that.
Possibly.
Anyway, I digress. I will move this on. Just with those metrics out there and talking about the change from 3 weeks ago, DVOA, they've gone down from 24 to 25 now. And EPA, big change. Overall, was 18th, now 24th. Offense has stayed the same at 25th, but defense has gone from 8th in the league to 17th in just 3 games. The regression has been real. Having a look at the players we expect to start for them on offense is up on the screen right now. So, at quarterback, Caleb Williams, running back, DeAndre Swift, wide receivers, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Keenan Allen, tight end, Cole Kmet. Left tackle will be Kiran Amagaji if it isn't going to be Braxton Jones. Obviously, he was out last week and he still continues to not practice, so I think there's a reasonable assumption. Left guard, Tevin Jenkins, centre Coleman Shelton, right guard, Matt Pryor, and the right tackle, Darnell Wright. So really, only left tackle is the one who's missing from their starting 11 there. And talking about offensive stats, Caleb hasn't had a huge amount of change. We heard about the lack of interceptions. He's almost 3,000 yards on the year, 17 touchdowns, 5 picks, passer rating of 87.7, PFF of 65.2. We've talked about him a lot, but I do kind of agree with Ryan. What more do you want from him? He can't do it all.
No. I mean, he's a rookie with rookie issues, which is what is expected. He's hanging on to the ball for too long. He's not the only guy who's ever going to do that. But the man's getting hurt to the point where I actually feel sorry for him. And it takes a lot for me to feel sorry for an opposition player like that. But you can't deny that he's committed to that team.
Oh, yeah.
In the slightest. People question his character and his playability. There are quarterbacks who would have quit a long time ago, who would have been, oh, I'm injured, I don't want to play. When you've taken 60 sacks, God knows how many quarterback hits, and you're just getting face planted every time. You're getting twisted, you're getting mangled, and no matter what you do, no matter how hard you play, and mentally this must be tough for him as well, because in successive weeks you get the Hail Mary, you get missed field goals, you get all the ways they've lost games after he's put his heart and soul into it to get them in a position to win it, mentally must be killing him as well. So not only physically is he suffering, but mentally he's suffering, because in this league, losing becomes a habit. We said it more than anything when our young team were there. We said we don't want to tank anymore. These young guys need to learn how to win games of football, because that's the only way they're ever going to do it. And lo and behold, when we started winning, the real progression from this team came. But while ever he's been subject to all this losing and new ways to do it, at some point in his career, he's going to have a down part and he's going to make mistakes, and a team's not going to carry him and people are going to blame him for it. He's got 2 years till he's getting the Justin Fields treatment already. That's
the
what
clock has started.
Yeah, his clock has started. He has 2 more seasons before he's getting... No, he's 1 more season before he's getting the Justin Fields treatment. He's 2 more years before Chicago ship him out claiming he's the problem.
Yeah.
That's where he's at.
Yeah.
He does not have time for this.
And the head coach hasn't picked a quarterback, so we're of course going to give him the pick, and then the head coach gets fired the year after he picks his quarterback because it still doesn't fix the issues.
And then you get a new GM there and at some point who's looking to make a splash, who doesn't want somebody's leftovers, dragging his reputation down. All starts again.
Yeah.
And that's why I say their clock, they've got to make the decision somewhere. Like, when you've got 3 juxtapositioned players, you can't get rid of one, because then 2 of them are still out of sync, and you can match 2 together.
Yeah.
But one of them's still out of sync.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to remove 2 of those building blocks, i.e. why I think they should get rid of Poles as well, and align new GM and new head coach with their current quarterback.
Yeah. They are the sloppy seconds team.
Exactly. But that is what...
Rude.
I say, a vulgar. That's what they've got to do until you get that continuity. Like we've got Holmes, Campbell, Goff, leadership through the center of the team, aligned in values, aligned in their future for this franchise, and we're moving together as one. Until they move together as one, they're going to move sideways, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
You can't push forward with that. You're going to come stuck.
In terms of the rest of their players, I'll just give you PFF grades. I went over their statistics 3 weeks ago. It doesn't aid us to go through too much again. Swift lead running back 62, DJ Moore lead wide receiver 70.9, Cole Kmet leading tight end 63. Other good grades in there: guard Tevin Jenkins 76.6, Braxton Jones left tackle 76.3 if he can go, Darnell Wright at the right tackle spot 77.8. The worst grades in there: backup left tackle, could be a starter for our game, Kieran Amadagaji 40.3, and backup tight end Gerald Everett 45.2. This team on offense is awful on third down. That hasn't improved. They were 29th, they're now 31st. On fourth down, they were 7th, they're now 17th. And in the red zone, they were 5th, and they're now 5th. And still the dichotomy of being awful on third down, but great in the red zone still doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But let's talk about the game last week against the Vikings and how they did on offense, and then I'll flip over to the defense in total next. So, Caleb, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, everything seems to be going wrong for him just a little bit. He's bailing out of pockets too quickly because he's feeling pressure which isn't there. He then, when the O-line gets beaten too quickly, doesn't feel the pressure quickly enough. There's just so much going on with him. It's kind of all in his head a bit. And the other thing I want to mention, Ant, is that he seems to absolutely gun every single throw he has. Like, I don't see many touch throws from Caleb Williams. Like, a few of the drops on third down that they had, or a few of, like, the slightly inaccurate throws, because he's absolutely hauling them. The receivers don't really have any chance to go get it either. Like, he's not giving his receivers much of a chance when he's being inaccurate.
So what I said to Ryan, I think this streak he's on is affecting his throwing. When you go on streaks of non-interceptions, it gets in your head and you start going, oh my God, look at this. I'm stat padding. Look at me. I'm creating records. It feels like a lot of his throws, he's trying harder to make sure the DB doesn't get it, as opposed to the receiver has an opportunity to get it. Especially because you see him make some good throws into risky coverage and that, but the turnover-worthy plays and that are then, that's fine, but having a low turnover-worthy play percentage and low turnovers isn't necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it means when you are playing a tough coverage game with a good secondary who can match up against your guys, you don't have the nutsack to go out there and make the throws that you need to. And you know, like Goff does. Like, Goff doesn't put much in harm's way, but when he does it right. And he's not afraid to do so. And even if he's picked, he's not afraid to still keep making
Goes
those
back
throws.
to the well, yeah.
It feels like Caleb is just gunning it too much so that the DB doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So that his streak stays intact. And I know a professional shouldn't think like that, but I think as a young rookie, when you've got nothing to hang your hat on this year, apart from the fact you've not thrown many interceptions, like, let's get to the end of my rookie year throwing 5 picks. That's awesome. And on the stats it may be, but it's also not a good thing for his team.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the NFL is a risk and reward game, and he's not taking much risk, and he's not getting much reward.
No, which is silly, because I've seen some of the throws he can make, and he absolutely can make all the throws.
Yeah.
And when he believes in himself to do so, he can do it. I just don't think that confidence is there with him. He doesn't trust his offensive line.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust his weapons, who are abandoning him. Well, DJ Moore chickened out blocks of this year. Keenan Allen's dropping it all over the place. These are big money makers who are expected to do well for him. The one guy he is connecting well with, shock horror, is another rookie on that team who's looking to do good. And why I said to Ryan, where's your core that we have? Our core set the tone for our team, even as rookies. Penei Sewell is the standard. In year 3 for this entire team, every single player on this team has to meet Penei Sewell's standards. They have to meet Amon-Ra's standards. They have to meet Hutcher's standards. There'll be 8-9-year vets on here, and they've got to meet the standards of these young guys. And their team at the moment is in the hands of vets who don't give a fuck. Where does that ring a bell from?
Yeah.
Which team was that 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And
why, when I said, the Titans have got an outside shot at the division this year, I was a complete fool. Because it's exactly the same over there and what they did this offseason. They tried to build a team from mercenaries.
The Jags did.
Yeah, the Jags
that free agency period, and I made that mistake as well. You've got to have the youngsters setting the tone. And outside of Caleb won't have a voice in that locker room right now. Not with DJ Moore hanging round. You know, not with Keenan Allen hanging round. Guys like that who are seniors who will command that locker room. It's not his voice that's commanding it, and it should be, but
yeah,
he's not in a good situation at the minute. They drafted a number 1 quarterback and didn't protect him. Yeah. Again, sound familiar? Us with Stafford.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at the rest of this game, so Kieran, the left tackle, got beat on a speed rush outside by Jonathan Grenard. That led to a strip sack on Caleb. He ran a quarterback sweep into an area where there were two defenders and one blocker, which was not ideal. In an empty set, he held onto the ball for 5 seconds, despite the fact that the Vikings brought 5 against the Bears 5. Maybe not the best decision in the world. Where the offense looked good, DJ Moore had an end around for 10. He also took just a normal handoff for 11. When I said DJ Moore's a running back, I didn't mean it flippantly. The offense looks movable when DJ Moore is actually doing the whole Deebo Samuel thing, which is really weird because that isn't his game. But you've got to make a gadget of this offense sometimes to make it run. This team absolutely is trying in terms of its play calling. I mean, early on in this game, they ran, I think it might be in the first offensive drive, a 4th and 1 from their own 39.
And that was the worst team at 4th and 1s in the entire
awful.
league.
Swift just ran up the gut and it was stuffed. And it wasn't the first,
And they did it
first
twice.
time. Yeah, I know.
Twice in the game. They did it on the next one. They ran him straight up the gut again and he got hit 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's like, man, just...
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift is not a short yardage back. That is your first problem. He's not designed for it. So you've got to get someone with some wheels and send him outside.
Yeah. Roschon, but he's injured. Travis Homer's better at it. They shipped out the guy who's best at it for a 7th round pick.
Yeah. Joe, why? He was good last year.
Yeah. Don't understand it, but never mind. I mean, the Swift signing is the sign that Poles really doesn't know what he's doing. Not because Swift's a bad player, because Swift isn't a bad player, but you don't buy in on DeAndre Swift when you have 2 running backs already on the team who are good enough for what you want to do, and then you invest a draft pick in another one.
Monty would have stayed with them for that contract that Swift's got.
Yeah. And he's a much better player.
Yeah. 1,000-yard-a-year guy. Like, I don't get why you get rid of Monty only just 1 year later to then replace him with Swift with the same money.
Yeah.
You're just basically saying you should have stuck with Monty to begin with because he wanted to end his career a Bear.
I do wonder whether Monty, whether he wanted to end it as a Bear or not, looked at the team, looked at where it was going and thought, you know what? This is going nowhere.
Yeah, potentially.
Sometimes the team fails the player and the player is loyal but wants to feel the loyalty back.
I mean, in fairness to this game, Swift ran well in this game. They blocked well for Swift in this game. And, they did get him going at points.
Yeah,
where they did. Good.
Yeah. So I said the touchdown that got called back on the did not report penalty, Kieran Amagaji on that left-hand side, they ran it behind him and he looked great.
And so it was a good play call.
Yeah.
It was a good play call to bring in the fullback. Just report the fucker.
Yeah, I don't know. What else do we have here? Caleb got absolutely hammered running around back there trying to extend a play. A flag was thrown. I was convinced it was going to be roughing the passer. It was an ineligible man downfield. Made me chuckle a little bit. They did get a touchdown in the end. Good throw up the seam to Adunze. It was actually dropped by Adunze, but then the next play was a great fastball to Keenan Allen, who was running a deep slant. It was just a consolation prize, but at least it made it more respectable than it would have been otherwise. Let's move on to the defensive side of things, and I'll bring up the defensive starters that I think are going to go for them on the screen now. Front 4 of Montez Sweat, Chris Williams at defensive tackle with Gervon Dexter can't go, Byron Cower at DT, and then DeMarcus Walker at the right end. Linebackers of TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, nickelback Kyler Gordon, outside corners Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson, safeties Kevin Byard III and Elijah Hicks. In terms of the stats, Dexter, does he go or not? Been their best DT by far, 72 PFF grade. Montez Sweat only a 64. That was talked about by Ryan about how he's taken a step back this year. It's really showed. TJ Edwards leading linebacker with a 63 and how much they invested in him and they're not really getting the production. And then Jalen Johnson, they paid him all of that money and he's only got a PFF grade of 72 despite the fact that he's a top 10 paid corner in this league. Kevin Byard is coming good somewhat with a grade of 74. But even then, when the defense is like, if you can find a weakness, exploit it, there are enough weaknesses here. Other good grades in there. Nickelback Kyler Gordon, 71. Jonathan Owens, the third safety, has come in and done some really good things. He's actually their number 1 graded PFF player at the moment, 78 grade for him. And then backup corner Terrell Smith, who's taking some fairly significant reps at the moment. He's on a 75. The worst grades in there are not actually that bad. Tyreek Stevenson, 58. Tremaine Edmonds, 58. In terms of the difference in the key downs for this team, they were 7th on third down. They're now 10th. Fourth down, they were 9th, they're now 10th. And in the red zone, they were 4th, but they're now 3rd. So they've actually improved in their red zone defense. They are tightening up. And Minnesota did have some trouble converting some of their red zone trips into touchdowns. The first one got there, but then they had a few that didn't.
That Jefferson drop was terrible.
It was awful.
You never see him do that ever.
No. I mean, so on that fourth down that they went for early in the game, that put the Vikings in position to score very early on at the 39-yard line. And they really got after the Vikings early and forced a field goal. That felt like a massive win for them that they couldn't really capitalize on. But at the line of scrimmage, they were very competitive. But on the second drive, Vikings burned the Bears with runs up the gut for 3 straight runs. They went from their own 20 up to like the Bears 20 in the space of 3 plays because they couldn't defend the middle. I was shocked, but that's what happens when your best defensive tackle and Gervin Dexter. Gervin Dexter has been absolutely incredible when he was out for this game. So, between those two, you're missing a lot. But the complementary defense is kind of failing them right now. That's what's missing. So when their coverage is good, their D-line's bad. And when their D-line's great, the coverage doesn't hold up long enough. So the Vikings seem to just make enough plays happen through these drives. In 3 downs, they made 1 happen to convert every single time, pretty much. They did have big cushions on the wide receivers of the Vikings, which meant that quick outs were just converting really quickly. I mean, even in the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half, it was 3rd and long. I think it was 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. The Bears took a timeout because they wanted to go back and score. But then they just threw a 9-yard quick out to convert because they had a 10-yard cushion. And it's like, if you're going to take a timeout, play press man. You want to get the ball back. But they were instead too conservative despite the fact they took a timeout. And it's like, what are we even doing here? And they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. So they had the 2 4th downs on offense. They didn't convert 4th and 1. And then when it came to their side of things, they had a sweat sack, which was negated by an offside. They had a Kevin Byard should have been an interception, which actually Hawkinson does amazingly well to force a PBU instead. Tyreek Stevenson was burned by Addison in the end zone, who then commits an egregious DPI, which causes a touchdown very, very easily. And Montez Sweat hit Darnold about 3 seconds after the ball had actually been thrown. That penalty was declined. But the number of plays out that this defense are just shooting themselves in the foot. And I mean, this is where they're really taking a step back. Yes, they're being less complimentary than they were earlier in the year. But sometimes there are some boneheaded plays in there too. It's super frustrating to watch this Bears team. And I want them to be bad. But even watching them, I'm going, come on, guys, you're a professional team.
Yeah, I mean, like they said, I think it was the first 4 third down conversions that the Vikings had in that game. Their average third down distance was 11 yards. 3rd and 11. They just kept converting 3rd and double digits again and again and again. There was a day and an age, maybe as soon as a decade ago, if you were 3rd and 6 or more against the Bears, you may as well just send out the punt team because the pass rush is just going to absolutely annihilate you while your receivers try and get open. There was a day and age where it was a death sentence. Now, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, Sam Darnold, like you said, is just passing with guys in open space, guys getting to the perimeter, and he's just got all the time in the world to keep maneuvering that team around. And it's just so unlike them. Even when they've been bad in recent years, the defense has always kept them in games. It's always looked good. But against like San Francisco, it gave up. Against the Vikings, it gave up. It feels like that defense has gone, you know what? Screw us doing all the work every single week, again and again and again, making stops, and then the offense doing nothing. We're tired of this. We're down in tools. We can't be bothered. This is what you get because there's only one side of the ball doing work most of the time. And that's really what it feels like with them because this is not Bears defensive football at all, even when they've been bad. And say just the third down conversions in this game were terrible and what they let him get away with. The pick, it was an absolutely awful throw by Donald. It was not a piece of ingenuity from Tyreek Stevenson. It was just thrown right at him. Like that was
And
it.
he should have dropped
There was
it because it was on fourth down. They actually lost
Yeah.
the yardage by it. He should have batted
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So there was nothing from it. And it was a terrible play call from the Vikings as well. Because they took a delay of game, didn't they? Because I don't think they tried to kick a field goal or something or whatever. I don't know.
They went for it on 4th and 3 at that play.
And it's just
know why.
it was a terrible play, and they should never have done it. But
Mm.
Again, the odd guy was chatting about in the comments, like when they make a splash play, like the sack. They got a sack, they put them back really far, and then they just converted it. But they're there celebrating because they've got a sack. It's like, come on, man. Finish the drive off and then celebrate afterwards. Just don't be... They're making splash plays, but not consistent plays. Splash plays are no good when you're not consistent. And then that just seems to be what they're doing. They're making splash plays, and that's it.
Yeah. A little bit about special teams. Tory Taylor, their punter, was absolutely hammered on a well, it wasn't a punt block. He managed to get the punt away. It was only called running into the kicker. I don't know how it wasn't called roughing because it was a heck of a hit. It did convert
They still
them
had
for
to
a
punt later in the drive.
They did, but so they needed 4 to go. So when they punted, they got a 5-yard penalty. So they still got a first down, despite the fact that roughing wasn't called. But that was ridiculous. And then they did get a punt block of their own. Dominic Robinson, who is a big lad, right? Dominic Robinson might be 310 pounds, completely unblocked for a punt block. Like what the Vikings were doing on that, I have no idea. And their punter absolutely ate the hit as well. So, I mean, it can absolutely happen. Yeah.
Like a trooper.
Yeah.
So, but their special teams is good, Chicago's is. Good kicker, good punter. They're generally reliable for a block field goal or extra point or something like that. So,
I mean, they're generally reliable for a blocked field goal of their own, mind you. Cairo Santos.
Their offensive special teams is terrible. Their defensive special teams is a bit better, but Oh, I found that tweet, by the way. So since week 7, this Chicago defense, 32nd in total QBR allowed, 32nd in yards after the catch allowed per reception, 30 seconds in yards per completion allowed, 31st in QB time to throw from the pocket per pass, 31st in first downs allowed per pass attempt, 31st in yards per drive. They give up nearly 38 yards per drive, 31st in drives that result in points, 30th in pass rush win rate.
It's a rough state of affairs.
That's not Bears football as we know it. That
No,
isn't.
It isn't. Right, let's get to score prediction. You're worried about this game. You said that. What do you think is going to happen and what's the score?
You know what? I just can't shake this nagging feeling that there's some form of a nightmare hanging on this game. That we, for the first time in 2 years, go back to back. I can't explain it. No matter how bad they are, tactically, we just cannot seem to put them away early. They always seem to get leads on us or fight the way. They drag us to their level. And it's at Soldier Field, which is probably a disadvantage at the minute because of the way that crowd's going. You would hope the Lions are a big group there, but the thing we're having trouble with at the minute is getting to the QB. Even if Amagaji's playing, is someone going to make him pay for it? I don't know. We've always had trouble getting to Bears quarterbacks. I feel we're going to win, but I think this is going to be an absolutely nightmarish game. Like, I'm thinking we're going to win 16-14 or something like that. It's going to be low scorer. It's going to be clunky. It's going to be hard to score points. They're going to drag us down to their level, kicking, fighting, screaming. And we're going to be lucky to escape with it. And people will start really questioning us. But for me, it would be still a big win. But it's just their history with us. Every sign says we should absolutely twonk these into the next galaxy, but we just don't play them that way.
You're right. We don't play them that way. Apart from this weekend.
You know, I was gonna use this. I forgot to when Ryan was here, but you know, we talked about how you get a new coach boom when the interim head coach comes in. Well, out of curiosity, I went back to check the new coach boom after we fired Patricia when Bevel took over. We won our first game afterwards, then lost our next 5. But you know who the one win was?
No, I don't.
I was setting you up for a very obvious answer.
Was it the Bears?
Yeah. We beat the Bears 34-30 in the first game after Patricia went, and then we lost out for the rest of the year. I thought poor guy's had enough. I'm not going to put that on him there when he was talking about new coach boons.
It was for the best. Yeah, for me, this is the one game I think which bucks the trend with us with the Bears. I don't think they've given up, but I don't think they have the horses. And I think then they get ground down pretty quickly. The backbone isn't quite there later on in games when things aren't going their way. And I know we're depleted on defense, but our offense isn't. And you heard those defensive stats. They're not fake. They are really struggling on defense, which is meant to be the best part of their team. Goff is going to eat. Gibbs is going to eat. I think this is going to be a really hard game for the Bears. I think it's going to run in a very similar way to the last 2 games for them. So, considering they've averaged 12 points per game scored and about 32 allowed, I'm going to call exactly that. I'm going to call, almost exactly that. I'm going to call 32-14.
That's what I hope it is. No cardiac cats. That's all I ask for.
Please and thank you.
Cats. All praise be.
Right. Anything else you want to say about the Bears before we move on to the rest of the slate?
About this game from our point of view, I am starting to get to the point where I am tempted to think about putting one of our rookies in on the offensive line. I don't like what's coming out of this interior at this moment in time, and it's kind of feeling like we are reaching the period where a change of the guard may need to start occurring.
Well, when Graham's got a car, Graham's got a knee. So
with 3 games left, and as technically we're in the playoffs now, so we can't lose the playoffs from this point. This is now the point where I would start looking to maybe blood in some youngsters along that line.
So put in Mahogany for Glasgow.
Well, I maybe if he's definitely the 49ers if he plays and struggles again. I would not hate it if we did it for this one. Because the trouble is with Glasgow struggling, that's bringing Ragnow down. And because Frank's struggled in pass pro in 3 of his last 4, that's a month of pretty consistent. Not that now is that down to Frank, maybe, but that left-hand side of the line with him has not been stable, especially when we've had Skip there. Skip's been great, but he's not Taylor. It just feels like we need to add a bit of stability to that line, and potentially a change is to be made. I wouldn't want to, but at the same point, we need to look towards the future as well, and this is the best time to give these guys those reps. And if Graham's hurt, give him a rest. Send a rookie in, let him have a game to rest up. If it doesn't work, Graham's rested up for a week. Hopefully just gets his head back in a little bit, and you send him back in and you go back to your first 5.
I am wholeheartedly in there. If you have a look at what Graham did last week and the fact that he's showed up with a knee injury and did not practice today, it makes all the sense in the world to get Mahogany a game. And I don't think that should be a long-term replacement. That is giving a vet a rest to come back for San Francisco. For me.
Exactly.
That's fine by me.
If we're not playing Ed Oliver this week.
Oh, that's probably going to help. He was a beast. Man, I feel like shit for saying he's had a bad season.
Hey, Frank struggled against Kenny Clark. Like, Kenny Clark's one of the best. Ed Oliver's is one of the best. Sometimes you just come up against the guys who are just as elite as you are, and they kick your ass. It happens.
It's so true. Right, the rest of the NFL slate, you get started with Thursday night football. It's the Broncos at the Chargers, and the Chargers are favoured at home by 2.5 in this divisional matchup. Broncos are on the brink of the playoffs. The Chargers are, I think, in the 7 seed, but they will be potentially getting in there as well if they win this game. What do you think?
I'm trying to find the tweet, but I want the scenario where all the
It's all locked
AFC
up, yeah.
are locked up this week, and I think it involves Denver.
So
the Chargers need to beat Denver.
Yeah, correct.
So, where is it at? Is it Mile High?
It's at Chargers. I've got
Chargers.
it. I've got it here. So the scenario is Chargers beat Denver, the Titans beat the Colts, San Francisco beat the Dolphins, and Cleveland beat Cincinnati. I think there's a very low chance of that because Tennessee beating anyone, but also Cleveland beating Cincinnati. Like Cleveland, they're starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We'll get to that game, but anyway, Chargers Denver in LA.
Chargers are reeling after that bad loss to the Bucs. I kind of feel like you're going to get a response out of them from Harbaugh alone. So I think they're going to transfer the kicking the Bucs gave them over to the Broncos.
I mean, the Broncos are almost there. So I think if the Broncos even lose out, they'll probably still get a playoff spot at this point. But anyway, yeah, give me the Chargers and the points as well. Next up is the Texans at the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Texans have sewn up the division now. I think they are in.
Yeah, they've won. They've won the AFC South.
They've won the AFC South. They are 3.5-point underdogs in Arrowhead. Only 3.5 with the way the Texans have been playing out.
Yeah, but the Chiefs ain't playing well either, are they? So
it's about 2 not great division winners.
And see, this all depends whether Mahomes plays or not. Because if Carson Wentz is playing, then,
Mahomes full practice both days, though. So this is, is this the Saturday game?
Yes, it is. It's Christmas Day. Christmas Day. There's 2 games on Saturday.
Yes. So this is a Saturday game. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The Chiefs are going to lose one eventually. This feels like the one they could lose. And I think the Texans have to put down a statement win to reinvigorate proper belief in them as a team. Because I think people have kind of gone a bit, not sour on them, but we've not got the same hype as last year.
Well, the offensive line is absolutely awful. But what a great test for that awful offensive line to go up against one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs cannot generate any pressure without throwing a blitz. And Stroud versus blitz has been poor this year. But if the Chiefs decide to just go with 4 because you're going up against the Texans O-line, you might find the Texans surprise you potentially.
And Stingley's on the run of his life at the minute, so you figure he might get 1 or 2 on Mahomes. I'm going to call a Texans upset here because I think every team loses one eventually. I think this is the Chiefs' time to lose one, especially if Mahomes is limited in his mobility because, well, the Texans do have an all right pass rush to go and get.
Oh, they do. I mean, Daniel Hunter and
Will Anderson.
Will Anderson, yeah, that works. I'm going to be a coward and say that the Chiefs win, but the Texans cover 3.5. It just feels like the Chiefs are going to win every game by a point and have like the best one-loss season ever by having the lowest ever points total for that win amount. Don't call me a bugger. That's not fair. Anyway, next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to call them Baltimore Colts. My God, I'm not that old. Steelers at Ravens. The Ravens are favoured at home by 6 points, which sounds ridiculous against the Steelers team. A Steelers team which I think has won 7 of the last 8 meetings against the Baltimore Ravens. And I think I know which way you're going, but let's hear it.
No, you don't. The Steelers win at home. The Ravens win at home. Those are the rules. The Ravens are going to win.
I mean, you have a look at what the Ravens did. And I know it was against New York, but that team, when it's executing properly, is so good.
It's a rule of thumb. The Steelers always beat the Ravens at Heinz Field, and then they generally lose the away leg. So they always split. I don't see it being any different here. I don't think they've got enough to go and beat the Ravens on their own patch. And the Ravens have got to be careful because they got 5 losses. They can't afford many more losses either, especially in division. Because, I mean, Are the Steelers still atop that division, or have they been overruled? What is the AFC North sitch at the minute? Are they level?
AFC North, the
I feel like
Steelers are leading by a game over the Ravens.
So the Ravens really can't afford to lose this.
No.
So otherwise they'll be struggling for a wild card.
Well, and if the Steelers win, then the Steelers win the division.
And then Baltimore's probably going to have to go to Buffalo or Kansas, which they really don't want to do.
All
right.
Experiment on Twitch just said, I'm glad I was lifting with a machine when Ant made that chicken noise, or I would have dropped a bar on my head. Sorry, made me chuckle.
Yeah. The Ravens cannot afford to lose this. Otherwise, they're going to Buffalo or Kansas to get through to the AFC Championship game, and they don't want that.
No.
You don't want to be going to Buffalo in January or whatever it is.
No one can seem to play in that environment in that time period, but hey. Next up, I'm picking the Ravens with points as well. Next up is the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. We've already mentioned it's one of those that needs to go a particular way for the FC to be locked up 2 weeks early. But the Bengals are favoured at home by 7.5 points, and against Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback for the Browns. Now, I am someone who really likes DTR coming out of college, and I was very much on the UCLA bandwagon when he was coming out. It's been a long time since then.
I just don't think it's a good system for a quarterback to work in right now, really. I think the Bengals win and cover. To put it this way, the Browns' defense is probably going to have to force 3 or 4 turnovers if they want to win this. They could, but it's less likely to happen. So I've got. Chubb's going to have a 200-yard game.
Chubb's broken his foot. He's done
again. Oh
yeah.
Christ. Oh God, who's that? I don't even know who the backup is then. Who are they running back now?
Is it Jerome Ford?
Oh, the old Cincy speedster.
I
thought that was someone that I knew. I thought they had a rookie in there playing.
Maybe. It's Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong, Donta Foreman.
Oh, Pierre Strong, the old South Dakota State man.
Yeah,
no. Bengals win and cover.
Bengals win and cover for me too. Giants at Falcons is next up. Falcons favoured by 8.5 points with Michael Penix at quarterback. What do you think?
I really like this. Been saying they should do it for a while now, and Penix has had half a year to sit and learn. This is what you should do with a rookie. Like, there's still genuine stakes to be had here. You're giving him maybe some low-hanging fruit to start with. Protect him. That New York D-line gets to him. But don't let him have one bad game and then drop him. Stick with him now. You put him in there. You keep him in there for the next 2 years through hell or high water and give him the opportunity to do it. But I like this. He's got a lot of targets to aim at, and I think he's going to do really well. I think the Falcons win comfortably.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, I'll keep coming back to this every single time we talk about the Giants. How many points do you think they're realistically going to score? Against the Ravens last week, who, yes, they got destroyed. The Ravens are still one of the worst pass defenses in the league. They scored 14 points, and 7 of that was late. How many points are they realistically going to score against the Falcons defense, which is also not great, but it's not terrible. I'd be surprised if the Giants scored 10 points.
I wouldn't keep saying it repeatedly, though, because you're setting yourself up to be clipped.
I mean, that's absolutely fine. If that's the worst thing that happens to me, I've had a privileged life. Next one is the Patriots at the Bills. The Bills are favoured by 14 at home. And
isn't this in a prime time slot as well?
It is a Sunday. No, is it Sunday? It is Sunday at 4:25.
Pretty sure it's in a prime time slot.
I don't know why it's in this order because we're playing before it, but for some reason Pickwatch put it in here. Yeah, it's the Sunday afternoon game.
The Patriots have the chance to do the funniest thing here. but they're not going to. Bills are going to absolutely destroy them. But if they do, because the Patriots could cost them the 1 seed. We all know Buffalo's downfall is getting the wrong seeding in the playoffs.
Yeah, Buffalo are never going to overhaul the. They're not overhaul. They're 2 games back from the Chiefs. Even though they've got the tiebreaker, they're too far away.
Yeah, well, see, the Patriots have just caused Buffalo misery for decades, so I could see them pulling off some sort of upset here, but I'm not going to put my name to it.
Bills win and cover for me. The Patriots struggled last week. I just think that's...
It would be so Bills of them to just lay an absolute egg now against the Patriots, and we wonder why couldn't you do that against us last week?
I completely agree. They play up. Everyone plays up to their opposition and plays down to them. You can't not do it to some extent. But yeah,
exactly.
Next up is the Cardinals at the Panthers. The Panthers were favoured last week, but not on Sunday. Cardinals favoured by 4.5 on the road, and in a game that the Cardinals absolutely must win. What do you think?
See, this is a game in which I like both the quarterbacks. I don't mind the Cardinals and the Panthers. I would have so much to say as they're part of my favoured teams, so I don't know. This would be tough. Obviously I want the Cards to, but I think, what is the state of the NFC West now? How far back are they?
They are 1 game back from both the Rams and the Seahawks. They are 2-2 in division. The Rams are 3-1 in division. So if the Cardinals win, that doesn't change the divisional record.
So they're likely not getting the wild card, is what we're saying, if they lose. Is it the NFC? Does the NFC West winner have to win it to be in, or can 2 of them get in, do you reckon?
Two of them could get in, but it's unlikely. For 2 of them to get in, the runner-up is going to have to be on 9 wins.
And they're all at 6 currently.
Rams and Seahawks have 8 wins. Cardinals have 7.
Ooh, see, I like me a sicko's tie-breaking scenario.
The problem that both the Seahawks and Cardinals have is if the tiebreaker is conference record, if it's 9 wins, it means the Commanders lose out. The Commanders have 6 conference wins. They're 6-3. Seattle's on 4. The Cardinals are on 3 conference wins. So they're almost too far back.
I think the Cards will win. But I would like it to be an entertaining game with both quarterbacks having really good games, because I do like both the quarterbacks.
Yeah. I like both quarterbacks too.
See, there's a really sicko's part of me that wants us and the Vikings to be level going into the last week. You want the ultimate stakes for a game.
I mean, even if they're only a game back, it can still all be on the line, can it?
No, we have the tiebreaker on them. Thank you, LA Rams.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're right.
Common opponents. We've both swept the NFC South. Not NFC South, the AFC South. But we swept the NFC West.
Yeah.
Oh, so providing we beat San Francisco. We've got to beat San Francisco to finish that cycle off.
Yeah.
If they've beaten San Francisco...
We'd have to if we beat the Bears and beat San Francisco, then we'd be ahead of the Vikings going into
it. We'd win even if they beat us via the tiebreakers.
Oh no, that's not true.
We win. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
We've got the same NFC record, same NFC North record.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to common opponents.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 divisions worth of common opponents. Mm. We'll have beaten the Rams. They will not have.
Mm. I am going to pick the Panthers to win this game against the Cardinals.
Good for you.
I think they've put enough good stuff on tape, and I'm not worried about what happened last week when they came up against a clearly better side. I don't think the Cardinals have the pass rush to worry the Panthers particularly. I think the Panthers have a run game to worry the Cardinals. So the only question is, can the Panthers defense hold up against Kyler? And I don't think it can. I think it can enough to give Bryce a chance. And I think this time they convert.
I'm sorry, what was that? A clearly better side. When I picked the Cowboys last week, you clearly both ganged up on me and went, the Panthers are better than Cooper Rush and co.
I didn't say clearly better. I said Cooper Rush has been brilliant since coming in and they're not missing Dak Prescott. It's literally what I said.
You still both ganged up on me and said the Cowboys were crap. So
I did say the Cowboys were crap, and I am correct, but they still won. I'm going Panthers. Next game is Lions against the Bears. We both picked the Lions. I'm picking them to win by more than 6.5. You're
not
saying
covered.
Not covered. You're saying okay. Next one is the Titans at the Colts. This is another one of those that needs to go a particular way to sew up the AFC. The Colts are favored at home by 3.5, and the Titans have benched Will Levis. They are starting Mason Rudolph again.
I believe in fairy tales, but I don't believe in miracles. You know.
Where are you from?
Colts are gonna win. I can't like just no matter how hard I try. The Titans. I could not even imagine what it's like to be a Tennessee Titans fan. Their offensive style of football would have sucked the soul away from me a long time ago, and I would be living just as a shell. That is what it must be like being a Tennessee Titans fan right now.
I can't decide what's going to happen in this game because part of me goes, the Colts remind us of us under Stafford.
Ooh. Let's have a fun game. Over under on a number of interceptions thrown.
I mean, I don't think Rudolph is going to throw a pick.
That's a hot take in itself.
I think Richardson's
usually good for a couple.
Yeah, I would set the over-under at 2.5, but I would say they're all Richardsons.
I'm going to set the over-under at 4.5 and take the over.
Yikes. I'm going to take the Colts to win and the Titans to cover 3.5 because I think the Titans have enough in their defense to say if Richardson doesn't fire that could be a close game. I split the difference. That's what I think is going to happen.
You want to say Titans. You know you want to say Titans.
I do want to say Titans, but...
Yeah. Chicken.
Whatever.
Whatevs.
Oh, man. Next one is the LA Rams at the New York Jets. Rams are favoured by 3 on the road. Stafford against Rodgers once again. And
yeah, Rams win and cover.
Yeah.
Those miserable Jets can be put out of their misery. They can go and try and get Kirk Cousins to replace. How funny would it be if they moved on from Aaron Rodgers to Kirk Cousins? That'd be such a Jets thing to do.
It would. I almost said it to Ryan, but I didn't say it to Ryan. I was about to say, it's not the worst idea in the world if you need a vet mentor for your number one quarterback to bring in Kirk Cousins for a 7-round pick.
He's a free agent. You don't even need to spend a pick on him. He's a free agent.
He's got 3 years on his deal.
Oh, I've heard they're going to cut him.
Well, if they do cut him, then they'll have a lot of dead money.
No, the even funnier scenario would be if they bought Aaron Rodgers in to mentor Caleb Williams. I mean, technically, then they're looking for a new owner, right? How about the previous one?
Yikes. Yeah, I'm taking LA to win and cover against the Jets. I mean, the Jets are the wounded horse that have fallen at the Grand National. They just need a bolt putting through their head.
You know, them poor guys might explode if Aaron Rodgers ever went there as a quarterback. I don't think we can put them through that. Could you imagine?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, but he's got to complete the arc of quarterbacks who've made that journey. And you know where the journey ends when you go from one NFC North team to the Jets and you end your career somewhere else. They always go to the Vikings. I don't know how it's going to happen, but they all
ended at the Vikings.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers to the Bears. We'll do it the other way around.
All right. Next one is the Eagles at the Commanders. Eagles favoured by 3.5 on the road. This is a key one. This is a really big game for both teams because Washington are in the 7th seed and look like they're going to stay there. But they've got to nick a win from somewhere, and the division is still alive.
How far are they behind the Eagles? 3 games?
They are 3 games back with 3 to play.
And do they still play them twice, don't they? Don't they play them last week? Or have they played them already?
I thought
they played them like 2 times in 3 weeks, I thought.
They played them a month ago and lost 26-18. So if they win, then there's no tiebreaker there. A win for the Commanders would tie up conference records, but the Eagles would be ahead on divisional record.
Well, then it depends what the last 2 games are. The Eagles have got the Packers in? Not the Packers.
No, the Eagles have got 3 straight division games to finish. They've got Commanders, Cowboys, Giants.
So they'd effectively have to lose all 3.
Yeah, it's not happening.
The Commanders to win all 3.
It's not happening. But the Commanders can basically sew up a playoff spot if they win.
I want to thank this game because they're on Sky, so we're not. So thank you, Eagles and Commanders, for giving them a more tempting option this week. Where's it at?
It is in Washington.
Ooh, Washington have really been pushing their luck recently. They feel like they've been winning games in spite of themselves. The Eagles are on a long run right now, but like us, it's going to come to an end at some point. I don't think the NFC East race is over just yet. I think the Commanders win, and I'm assuming they're outsiders, so
3.5 points.
Yeah. I think the Commanders can make this interesting for at least one more week.
Then
that gives the Cowboys interest in beating the Eagles,
which would be very fun. I'm going to take I'm going to take the Eagles. It's hard to see past them right now. At the moment, they're one of the best sides in the NFL, and it pains me to say it. And
plus, somebody upstairs owes us a result. After all these injuries, and the Packers winning all the time, the Vikings winning all the time, the Eagles winning all the time, we're owed something from upstairs. So
yeah, Commanders could do us a huge favour. If the Commanders win, then we can afford another loss as long as we beat the Vikings, and we'll still clinch the 1. It would be huge if the Eagles could drop a game somewhere. Yeah, but I'm not doing that. I'm taking the Eagles, unfortunately. We've got a question from Mark G, which I'm going to get to at the end of these. We've only got a few more to go through. Vikings at the Seahawks. Seahawks at home, underdogs by 3 points to the Vikings. Looks like Geno Smith isn't going to go, unfortunately, and they are going to be starting backup Sam Howell.
See,
there's been an update on that point. It's just been tweeted. Geno Smith, full participant in today's practice. Maybe he will be a go against the Vikings.
So I need some advice here. After saying last week that I hate the Seahawks so much that I want the Packers to win there and, ruin them, which they did. Would it now be hypocritical of me to say that I want the Seahawks to beat the Vikings?
No, because
you get away with that? Or...
No, you gave your rankings of fan bases that you hate the most, and I do believe the Vikings were ahead of the Seahawks, so you're entirely consistent.
Am I entirely right? In that case, then Vikings can go suck a dong. They can lose. They can lose to the Vikings, to the Seahawks. Sorry, I don't care. I want this little fairy tale of theirs to be over. And as much as I do. Part of me wants to go into the last week with everything on the line because that's where the Lions are best. When chips are down on the table and everything's on the line and you've got one go at it. But at the same point, we are so injured right now that I kind of just want to sew up the 1 seed as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
so,
ditto.
Please, Seahawks, you can win one this week. And plus, the Seahawks need to win to get in the playoffs, so they still have incentive this season to play well.
Seahawks really need a win. I am making my choice on the basis that Geno now plays. I was going to make it on the basis that he doesn't. Geno's playing. I am picking the Seahawks. I think that when you have a look at who the Vikings are right now, and who Geno Smith is, and who his weapons are, and who the Lions are, and how we've played against the Vikings, Geno and Goff are not dissimilar quarterbacks. They're great at reading the field. They're very accurate. Geno has the odd brain fart a bit more often than Jared does, but they're pretty similar. Offensive line for the Seahawks isn't great, but they've got a trio of wide receivers any team in the league would be proud of. And that sort of thing is going to give the Vikings defense fits. And when the Vikings defense doesn't perform, it puts that offense under a lot of pressure. And that offense is great. I mean, the way that Addison is playing right now, the way that Jefferson's playing right now, and Hawkinson's also doing really well, it's going to be hard to stop that Vikings offense. I think the Seahawks can do it. So I'm gonna vote with my heart and my head here. If Geno doesn't play, I'm flipping over to the other side.
Wow. Gino playing a football game decides your sexuality. That's one I've never heard before. So
There we go. I mean,
Sarah will be this up. Sarah's going to be rooting for the Seahawks for Gino to play.
He's a beautiful man. Next up is the Jags at the... This can't be right. The Jags at the Raiders. The Raiders are favoured by a point at home. I realise it's the battle of backup quarterbacks. It's Mac Jones against Desmond Ridder in an oh my god, this is an NFL game. But still, no Max Crosby for the Raiders. The Jags look like a passable team against the Jets, dare I say?
God, this really feels like it could be a CFL fixture, doesn't it?
It does.
Where's it at?
It's in the Death Star.
Darth Vader playing quarterback, but that's not fair. He can control the ball with his mind.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Or if it looks like a DB is going to intercept him, he could just strangle them from afar.
I was about to say, if we're doing Star Wars American, shall we do Star Wars American football after this? Just which characters we'd use. I'd use Gungans as DBs because their tongues are like 10 foot tall. Jar Jar Binks, star safety.
Misa Interceptor.
You sir, not through that past me, sir.
I'm going to make an interception. Do it.
Anyhow, where were we?
Jags at Raiders. Raiders 1 point favourites.
Shall we do rock, paper, scissors again? You know, just for the...
I don't even remember which way we went and how it went last week.
I don't. Is Sincere McCormack hurt now, isn't he? So I can't even root for Sincere now. Just Jags, because why? I picked them to win the AFC South. I need them to get some semblance of their respect back.
I'm with you. I think the Jags are the better overall team. I'm going Jags. In terms of last week, I can't even remember what we did rock, paper, scissors on. I think it was Falcons, Raiders.
Possibly.
I took the Raiders. I was the person picking and I took the Raiders and it was 15-9. Oh, yeah.
I think we did right to rock, paper, scissors.
I think so. It was such an awful game. Next up for us is the 49ers at the Dolphins. And this one is also a 1 point game. The Dolphins are favoured at home by 1 over the San Francisco 49ers.
See, are San Francisco out of the off-season yet?
Nope. Not yet. Not eliminated. But
I think they're going to have a run towards the end. I think they're going to make it difficult. I don't know what. Would we rather than win or lose coming into the game against us? Because if they win, it gives them momentum. But then if they lose, they might try and bounce. Mind you, if they lose,
they are eliminated.
They're out the playoffs.
They are eliminated if they lose.
For the first and last time this year, I'm going to bet on the Dolphins. Please put them out the misery so that they've got nothing to play for against us.
I'm going for these 49ers. I think they've started to look good again. That's it. End of thread. They're
groundbreaking analysis from
ROTL. I think unfortunately, even if they win, they're going to be eliminated. So they'll go to 7-8 with a win.
So I guess the Rams can't. They've got to hope the Rams don't win again.
Because the Rams...
mind you, they can't beat the Rams because the Rams have swept them, so I guess they could only get in as a wild card now.
They are 2 games back with 3 to play.
So they can only be a wild card.
Well, unless the 49ers win out and the Rams lose out.
Yeah, but then one of the Seahawks or Cardinals will take the division, surely.
Potentially.
You've kind of got to ask for all...
I think a Commanders win will knock them out regardless.
Oh.
Basically, if you're right,
Yeah.
if one of those teams is getting to 9, then the 49ers can only match them and they'll lose on divisional record. Yeah. In which case, it's only a wild card and there's already the 7th seed on 9 wins. So
put them out their misery.
Yeah. I'm still going 49ers. I think while they're still mathematically alive, they're going to try their best. And I think the Dolphins... I mean, Tua, looked awful last week with all of those
Dolphins out? Are the
exceptions.
Dolphins out the picture now?
No, they're still alive.
They can't they?
So this is one of the games that has to go the 49ers' way for that scenario to be true, because it would knock the Dolphins out if they lose. So both of them are losing out.
But I think Miami winning goes towards the scenario of everybody clinching this week.
Yes,
So-
that's why. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Right. 2 to go. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys. Tampa
That's
Bay.
Is that Sunday Night Football?
That is Sunday Night Football.
Dallas.
I don't know, because it's Dallas and everyone's going to watch it.
Oh, why has that not been flexed? Why not put the Eagles and the Commanders in that spot? Why?
I mean, do you want us to be on?
Tampa are going to absolutely steamroll Dallas, and it's not even going to be close.
I agree. 4-point game away. I still think they're going to cover that. Final game, Monday Night Football. You could ask as well why this one has not been flexed out. New Orleans Saints at the Green Bay Packers. It is a Green Bay 14.5-point spread.
You know the rock and a hard place thing here.
Mm.
Like, I've been saying how bad the Saints are all year, and I want them to get absolutely twonked. But at the same time, the Saints beating the Packers at Lambeau would be hilarious and would bring their fans down a peg.
Oh, yeah.
Who's playing at quarters? I'm assuming Spencer Rattler's getting the job going forward for now then.
I actually don't know what the Saints are going to do. For part of me thinks they're still going to go with Jake Hainer, but I don't know.
If Spencer Rattler's in, I think they've got a fighter's chance. But the Packers are playing good football. As much as I hate to say it, Josh Jacobs is in the form of his life. I think they're going to absolutely annihilate them again. I don't think it's going to be close. Those are two, for week 17, those are 2-16. They are piss poor main events.
They are.
Yeah, they should be. There are some cracking games this weekend that are not where they should be.
So the Saints have not announced the starter at quarterback for this game coming. The only thing that's been said is that Derek Carr definitely won't be returning this week.
For the betterment of the franchise, cut him. Don't let him play again. Cut him. Be done. Start again.
I am going to say that Green Bay win, but the Saints cover 14.5.
Plus, the Saints are going to be in tank mode now as well, don't forget.
Yeah.
They are, fourth in the... They're about fourth in tankathon or something at the minute. They're right up there, so go get your quarterback.
Saints are 10th.
Oh, they're 10th?
They've got 5 wins.
Oh, yeah, there's a billion 4-win teams, aren't there? Well, in that case...
It's only 2 4-win teams. 2 2-win teams, 5 3-win teams, 2 4-win teams.
Oh, right, so 10th is probably going to where they're being then if they lose out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It doesn't get much better.
The quarterback class is thin this year.
Yeah, there's not going to be anyone for them, really. They're going to have to take a swing lower down again, or...
Not with Newsmeyer and Aller going back. You'd have to trade up, but I don't know what the trade cap's like.
You just start Derek Carr. You don't eat the dead cap by getting rid of him. You just go, we've made our bed, now we lie in it. You made the decision to bring him in. You have to keep playing him.
I would can him and go with Spencer Rattler.
But they can't afford to cut him. They literally can't.
Well, I just tell him to stay at home.
Yeah.
Whatever.
My only argument about the Saints and about covering the 14.5 is that defense is still good. It almost won last week. It had a 2-point conversion attempt away from winning the game. And the only reason it did is because that defense held a very good offense in the Washington Commanders completely out of it in the second half. So Green Bay, I think, will struggle on offense. But they'll do enough because the Saints won't have anything on offense at all.
No. Oh, well, they've got Edwards-Helaire now, haven't they? But
on the practice squad.
They'll elevate him.
Probably.
They ain't got enough at running back at the minute. So.
Or Jamal Williams.
Yep.
So there was a question that I just wanted to address very briefly because I think it's a new viewer called Mark G on YouTube who just said, just curious, do you guys want an NFL team in the UK?
No.
That was my reaction.
No. We do not.
Why not?
Because the Lions are my team. I have an affinity towards the Lions, and I would not change that. And plus,
but you wouldn't have to change that because it wouldn't have to affect your fandom. But let's say in isolation,
I wouldn't go out my way to watch them. That's the point. Because I'd have to go to London, and I would not go out my way to watch it unless the Lions were playing them, or unless there were some draft picks that I really liked, and I would go out my way to go and see them play.
And this is my fear about a London team, is that you'd be inventing another LA team, basically, in terms of it just being an away game every time they play. Like, the majority of the fans turning up to a London-based team would not support that team, and that'd be awful.
And then you're asking 9 teams over in America to travel away for a game in a year, or 8 or 9, depending on what your schedule is, as well as doing international games as well. So you're just creating it, like, Goodell's ruining it by sending it to so many countries because the players are going to get fed up in the end. And, so I wouldn't want that either. You want to keep games abroad special.
Yeah. Oh, you do. And I mean, the great thing about the abroad games is that you have a random cycle of other teams coming back all the time. Marcus has weighed in saying the Jags are England's team, and you can fuck right off. They are not our team.
Tell our listeners to... No, I'm sorry to all the listeners out there. We're not telling you to fuck off.
No, in the nicest way possible. I don't want them to be regarded as England's team. When they travel to the UK, I reckon maybe 20 to 25% of the fans are Jags fans.
I'm going to say this now. I reckon, not because of us, but helped by us, like, the Lions have the most, like, they have a lot of passionate, truly passionate fans over here. Not, not part-time guys, not people who come off. I reckon, like, a lot of the Lions fans we know here, they have them in our Discord and that, they're very passionate fans.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them who genuinely give a damn about the game, whereas most people just put on a jersey and go and don't really care.
Yeah.
I would suffice to say that the Lions are more a team over here than the Jags are. No one gives a about the Jags over here.
No.
They can't even get a regular podcast going or anything like that. And it's the team that literally comes here every year and you get the most material to do with. You could go to Wembley every year, get press passes and everything. No one could be asked to do that.
Yeah.
We can for the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And the thing is, not only are you asking 8 or 9 teams a year to come and play over here, which is a ridiculous increase, the other thing you're doing is you're asking players to base themselves either in London or to base themselves on the east coast of the States and practice in Florida and then regularly fly over for a game. And I don't know if you've noticed about the England games, they tend to be very low-scoring affairs because they're jet-lagged to hell and they just don't play very well. Like, the London games, as fun it is to go and watch a game without having to fly over, they're awful.
They're boring.
Yeah. I'm not saying I don't want the games to happen. I still want the London games to happen. It's great to just experience the game without having to spend thousands of dollars.
There are not that many genuinely good games over here that leave you on the edge of your seat.
No. One of the best ones, the one that's always ranked, the second best London game, is the Lions' victory over the Falcons. And that was a 22-21 victory. And that's the second best game there's ever been there.
Yeah. Because we don't get rivalry games, because they protect them in America. You don't really get the in-conference stuff so much. I mean, we had an AFC South all one this year. Was it Titans and Jags we had this year? But they don't often give up the division rivalry games, which is understandable because they probably make the most money over there, and then therefore you don't get anything with any real high stakes to it.
Yeah, but also they don't run any sort of big fan events outside the stadiums, which drums up like a lot of fervour and excitement. It's just normal. Turn up to the game, go home. And I think for the casual fan, as you rightly talked about, there are a lot of casual fans. Part of the point was that fun, nuanced, different element to going and watching a football match over here. And now it's just normal. It's lost that special nature to itself.
Yeah, and the experts over here don't know what they're talking about either, so it just completely blows up the lack of general understanding about football over here. A la Jason Bell the other day. What? Toheeb still, they drafted him from Rutgers. I shouted at the TV. He's from Maryland.
From friend of the pod, Jason Bell.
Yes. I literally shouted, and me, who was I'm not a casual, I know my college ball, but me instantly said, he's not from Rutgers. And this is a man on TV proclaiming to be an expert talking about it. That's what I mean. They just say anything they want on TV. Oh, he's from Rutgers. I don't know where Rutgers is, but I'm not going to fact check him over it. Well, I fact checked you, Jason. You were wrong. I told you that as soon as you said it. That's our lack of knowledge amongst our experts here is absolutely atrocious. I'm genuinely convinced any one of us on this pod could go on one of those Sky shows and put them to shame.
I have thought about pitching to Sky about the fact that there are podcasts like us that exist. We'd happily record something extra for free to be streamed on Sky, previewing our team's game in a half an hour slot. I genuinely think it would be a really good idea. They could get content for basically free. We'd get a much bigger audience.
Yeah.
I think it would be huge. And you have a look at the Buffalo Bills pod over here, the Falcons pod over here, the Cowboys podcast over here, us. We've got the Green Bay podcast is really, really good.
The Irish ones are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's Irish Cowboys, Irish Packers, Irish Bears. Just regular, the NFL Island show is pretty good.
Even some of the knowledge for some of the super fans, the Colts guy we've had on before is absolutely brilliant.
And they're much more so than people who put themselves on TV and pretend to talk about it.
Yeah.
It was shocking. It's the first time I'd ever watched the Sky stuff because thankfully you were very nice and got us Now TV, so thank you for that. But I didn't realise just how grossly terrible it was.
The thing is, I kind of almost feel sorry for Neil Reynolds because he always gets hate, but he knows his audience. He knows that how many of them are casual fans, and he's teeing stuff up for people. But he's a legit person who knows his shit, and he has to kind of dumb himself down a little bit for what's going on. And then Jason Bell, I absolutely adore him. When he came on our show, I thought he was great. But he is an entertainer.
Yeah.
And if you have a look, if a person went and said, I want to go and watch a good fight, I'm going to go to a WWE event. That's Jason Bell. Like, when you actually want to go and watch UFC or you want to go and watch a boxing match, you don't go and listen to Jason Bell.
Yeah.
But so he has a market and he has an audience. I just don't think it's for the people who should be watching that. But maybe because it's a casual audience, it plays very well to actually him being on there. But
because they had Jeff on there as well, Jeff Reinebold. He plays the game, he coaches the game. He's a damn college football coach at the minute, but even he seems a bit meh on it, like he doesn't really, his takes are not what I expect from him. They're just very, like he can't be arsed.
We've got a few other questions in. So Mark G asking what's the most popular team in the UK, and associated with that, David D6D6 with the lovely Old Lions logo as the picture asks, how large of a following do the Jets and Vikings have in the UK, being that those teams played in London earlier this season? David, to answer your question about the Jets and Vikings specifically, them playing in London earlier this year has absolutely no bearing on their fandom over here. However, the Jets and the Vikings are extremely well followed in the UK. They are both probably in the top 5, I think, for me, in terms of fan bases, in terms of volume. And that's because those teams were both good in the 80s, which is the peak of the NFL on TV in the UK. It was so popular at the time, and that is where the popular teams come from. So the biggest teams over here, the Patriots, I think, for what's happened in the last 25 years. You've got the Jets and Vikings. I would say the Miami Dolphins and the Chicago Bears are probably my top 5 in terms of volume of fan bases. I don't know if you've got any others necessarily.
I would say, given their recent success, the Chiefs are becoming more popular now.
Definitely, yeah.
But I don't know whether they've broken the cartel yet. The Dolphins feel like a fading franchise over here. People forgetting about them now. Because they're what, 2003 is their last playoff win? I don't think they're as in the sphere now.
No.
Bears fans, there's loads. In Ireland, there's tons of Bears fans. I think
Yeah.
it's a big more thing in Ireland, but obviously the Irish-American connection, there's a lot of, byproduct through that. Vikings fans, there's quite a few. There's a really big Vikings fan in Chesterfield, actually, next door to me. UK Vikings fan on Twitter. He's one of the bigger ones over here.
Mm.
I don't casually see them walking around, but again, I just don't casually see many NFL fans walking around.
I see plenty of Packers fans actually as well when I'm out and about, which is very annoying.
I said one day I'm going to have to go to. I'm going to try and watch a game an NFL Sunday when we're not playing and go and find a bar and go and try and find people and see what the demographics are like.
I talked about us going and potentially watching a game together.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time. But I don't know whether you're going to be off. But I'm going to put a chat in our chat and see whether anyone else can make it.
Probably have been fired in 2 weeks the way I'm arguing with my owners. So you might be all right.
So David says, I recall the fridge being very popular in the 1980s. He was huge, both physically and in the minds and hearts of UK fans for sure. Marcus asks, is the NFL popular in the UK? The short answer is no. The long answer is it's the fastest growing sport in the UK, both in terms of who's playing it and how it's being watched. It had the biggest Super Bowl audience it ever had last season, and it was significantly ahead of the year before, which was significantly ahead of the year before. So it's getting there, but it's definitely lower than any of the established British sports.
I think it's more people know more about it now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of casuals here, but there are a lot more level above casuals, like, vested interest in it now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who have that. So I think slowly but surely it is growing.
I'm indoctrinating people. Every year for the Super Bowl, I go out to a bar and I encourage basically everyone I know to come and take a table with me to spend a Sunday night until 4 a.m. eating wings and drinking beer. And the game happens to be on for them. Whereas for me, I'm very invested and I'll put plenty of sports bets on because why not? And then they enjoy themselves, have a good time. And then suddenly next year comes around and they go, so are you doing Super Bowl again this year? And then suddenly it's coming into fandom. So
yeah.
As
people find their spirit animal over there. People like to find teams that reminiscent of teams they like here. So it's about finding them and it's just gaining enough interest. People, because it's very hard over here to find a lot of legitimate means to find ways to learn the game. So, and it's very difficult to process it all, especially when it's a brand new sport and it's not your naturalized sport. I think as people, as you say, as they learn more about it and enjoy it more, then you can enjoy it the more you know what's happening. A lot of people just don't know what's happening and don't have the time to invest in figuring out what happens.
Yeah.
But more people are starting to, with the interest that comes with it.
Probably should have had this conversation, which has been really great, off the audio pod because we've gone a long time, but I'm going to bring the show to a close now. It's been a really nice chat, actually. So thank you to everyone who's had a lovely couple of questions in there. Marcus just said it would be quite the experience to watch a game with people from the UK. I mean, if we do make the Super Bowl, I mean, and maybe that's a vain hope now, I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep the faith. If we do, then there will be a party over here for Lions fans in the UK. If anyone from Michigan somehow finds themselves in the UK during the Super Bowl week, I will send out the invite.
It would be cheaper to fly over here and party with us than get a ticket to the Super Bowl. So there's always that in mind.
Mark finally just asked whether the NFL or the NBA is more popular. I think comfortably the NFL is more popular now. It used to be the NBA, I think probably in the 2000s, but I think the NFL comfortably is there now.
So if you're going to rank them, obviously the NFL will be first. I think after that, I think there's quite a lot of baseball fans over here.
Especially since the London series has become a thing.
Yeah.
And there's been more televised on the BBC, which is a big deal.
Yes, you get the playoffs here. Because we watched the Tigers in the playoffs this year, and you were able to see more. And then they did basically all the games for the wild card games. So
it's great. You watched all of the Detroit games on the BBC.
Yeah, I know there's Jed's a massive super fan of the Tigers from over here.
He's brilliant.
He puts me to shame with his shit talking, which
Yes, he
makes me
does.
feel bad.
He gets a lot of hate
literally-
for it sometimes as
He
well.
does. He's a hate magnet, but I think there's a lot of passionate baseball fans over here. Basketball's just declined in popularity here. The British basketball game has just not taken off. Like when I was younger, I used to go and watch games, and I used to find it fun. But now, especially because if you think of the American game, think how many top players over in America now are Europeans or Australians. Like, they've not had. I mean, because they've got Cooper Flagg coming out this year for the draft. They've not had a white American player picked as a number one pick since like the 80s or something like that. There are a lot of Europeans and that coming over. I mean, think of the last couple of picks. Frenchman, who was wildly the most popular one this year.
And he was so damn good in the league as well.
Yeah, he was very good, Victor was. And, you think of the top players, Doncic, Giannis, Greek, Serbians, all sorts, French. Hell,
I mean,
the Americans get genuinely challenged in the Olympics now. There was a day and age they just win every game by 50 points in the Olympics. Now they're actually challenged.
Yeah.
But I think that's
even going
taken
back
away
quite a
from
long way,
here.
you have both the Gasol brothers, who are fantastic for Spain.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. A lot of the European leagues have taken over the British one here. The British standard here is not very good.
Terrible.
So a lot of people just don't get invested in it. So
yeah, I think
very
even
difficult.
the best Brit there's ever been is still playing in the British league now. Luol Deng, I think, is over here playing, but that's it. We don't have anyone of note in the British leagues.
No, and there's not really much money put into it. I think hockey's quite well attended here. Like hockey's like maybe, I don't know if it's on the up and up.
But it's barely on the TV is the problem.
Yeah,
to build the audience, you need it on the TV. And the problem that you've had with baseball is that it's not baseball, basketball, is it's flipped from Sky to BT, now TNT, back to Sky, because no one wants it enough to actually pay the money that they're happy with. Whereas with the NFL, it's always stayed in the one place because Sky have heavily invested in it. And it's paid off because all the games are on there and it's built the audience slowly over time.
Yeah. So it's just these are very long processes that you've got to go through. It's like us trying to discover the Lions fan base here. It's a very long and arduous process. And
there's a lot of people when you find them.
I know. I'm shocked how many Lions fans there are over here.
Yeah, me too.
And again, who know their stuff and not even listen to us. They just know it.
Yeah, we fail to reach a lot of those people, and I just don't know how to, because they're only few and far between. It's not worth us spending on ad money for the UK when we aren't reaching the people in Michigan sometimes. But
no, and NFL resources over here don't take the time of day for people like us.
No,
they're very secular.
Yes, they are. Anyway, let's draw this conversation to a close. The next show is the live reaction show for the Bears game. Myself and Ash will be doing our play-by-play and live reactions, and you can also check out Ant on the tweet stream, on the Twitterverse. Do we call it X now? Maybe we do. But that's really entertaining, so watch us or read him. It's going to be worth your time either way. The review show will be Monday currently, which will be the 23rd, and then it's going to get a bit funky over the Christmas period as to when we're going to do things, but I'm sure we'll have some shows we can put out for you guys. The College Football Podcast aired earlier this evening, and what did he talk about?
Spent a lot of time discussing the playoffs, so we broke down sort of the statistical bits between the teams and chatted all about that, and then just news about head coaches and bits all going through the cycle. We were going to do some draft stuff, but I was pushed for time, so we'll do that whenever we're next on. But there's a lot of good stuff on there. College football playoffs start on Friday. 3 of the games are on Saturday. I intend to sit and do nothing and watch football all day. College football on the computer, NFL on one of them as well, because there's 2 NFL games, so I'll be happy as Larry, just scoffing birthday cake and stuff like that. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, Ant's birthday on Saturday, so make sure to send him some good wishes. You've all been warned. You can find us on our socials, We're All the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and the group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. If you want to C, a good reason why you should keep the faith as a Lions fan. If you didn't watch last week's show, then I've asked Ash to clip up Ant's speech from the start of last week's show. It was an absolute doozy. I say last week's show. It was 2 days ago. But it's going to be clipped up. It's worth your time. Ash's preview articles, rotluk.com, our website there. We're going to have a little bit of a refresher of it. Ryan Farden rightly pointed out that the bios that we've written are 4 years old. So it probably needs a little refresh. So we're going to do a little bit on there. But thank you to everyone for listening. For the Bears preview, thank you to Ryan for his amazing contribution at the start of the show. I hope you enjoyed all the peripheral chat after all the NFL stuff that we talked about. It's just great to talk football. It is. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Ant for doing this with me. And guys, we're getting back on the wagon. 13-2 upcoming. Let's go Lions, one pride.
Fuck the Bears.
Recording stopped.